The CEO sat across from me in that sterile conference room, and I knew one of us wasn't walking out of here with a career intact. Ethan Cole's hands were steady on the table, but his heart hammered against his ribs. Ava Sterling, Billionaire CEO. And the woman he'd fallen for in the messiest possible way looked untouchable even now. The HR director shuffled papers between them like evidence at a trial. Everything Ethan had built, the stable job, the predictable life for his daughter, was about to shatter. If you want to see how a single father risked it all for something real, stay until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city. I want to see how far this story travels. The fluorescent lights in the HR conference room buzzed with a persistence that made Ethan's headache worse. He'd been sitting here for 11 minutes. He'd counted each one, watching Jennifer Park, the head of human resources, organize her papers with the kind of methodical precision that people use when they're about to ruin your life professionally. Across from him sat Ava Sterling, not the Ava he'd laughed with 3 nights ago over takeout in her downtown loft. Not the woman who'd fallen asleep on his shoulder during a terrible movie they'd both pretended to watch. This was CEO Ava, the version the business magazines photographed, the one whose net worth had more zeros than Ethan's brain could comfortably process. Her posture was perfect. Her expression was unreadable. She wore power like other people wore clothes. "Mr. Cole," Jennifer began, and Ethan forced himself to focus. "I'm sure you understand why we've called this meeting." He did? Of course he did. Someone had seen them together, really together, not just in passing at the office. Maybe it was last Tuesday when Ava had touched his hand across the table at that restaurant downtown, the gesture so brief that Ethan had almost convinced himself he'd imagined it. Or maybe it was the wedding 2 months ago, when everything started, when he'd been stupid enough to think that what happened outside the office could somehow stay outside the office. "I have an idea," Ethan said. His voice came out steadier than he felt. Jennifer's smile was thin, professional. "Sterling Industries has very clear policies regarding workplace relationships, particularly those involving significant power differentials." Power differentials. That was one way to put it. Ava Sterling, 30 years old and running a tech empire worth billions. Ethan Cole, 32 and senior enough in the data analytics department to have his own office, but junior enough that his salary still made him wince when he paid his daughter's daycare fees. "I'm aware of the policies," Ava said. Her voice was calm, controlled. She didn't look at Ethan. "I've read them extensively." "Then you understand," Jennifer continued, "that the company needs to address this situation appropriately. The restructuring next quarter already has people on edge. We can't afford the appearance of favoritism or—" "There's no favoritism," Ethan interrupted. He probably shouldn't have interrupted. He definitely shouldn't have interrupted. But sitting here listening to their relationship, whatever it was, whatever it had become, being reduced to a corporate liability, made something hot and defensive rise in his chest. "I earned my position. My performance reviews speak for themselves." Jennifer's expression didn't change. "I'm not questioning your qualifications, Mr. Cole. I'm explaining that optics matter." "Optics," Ethan repeated. The word tasted bitter. For the first time since they'd sat down, Ava looked at him. Just a glance, quick enough that Jennifer might have missed it, but Ethan caught the flicker of something in her eyes. Concern, maybe. Or regret. He couldn't tell anymore. Everything about this woman had become simultaneously crystal clear and impossibly complicated. "We need to determine next steps," Jennifer said. "Mr. Cole, given the circumstances, we're prepared to offer you a generous severance package. Your contributions to the company have been valuable, and we want to ensure a—" "No!" The word came from Ava. Sharp, definitive. Jennifer paused. "Ms. Sterling, no severance, no termination." Ava's hands were flat on the table, her posture still immaculate, but there was steel in her voice now. "Ethan stays. We disclose the relationship formally. We follow whatever protocols the company requires for situations like this. But he's not losing his job because of me. With respect, Ms. Sterling, that's not how this works. The power dynamic alone. Then we figure out how to address the power dynamic." Ava's eyes hadn't left Jennifer's face. "Transfer him to a different department. Create a reporting structure that eliminates any conflict of interest. But I'm not going to sit here and watch a good employee get pushed out because we decided to be honest about something that most people would have just hidden. Ethan stared at her. He'd seen Ava in boardrooms before. Hell, he'd presented to her twice in the last year, but this was different. This was her going to war, for him. I need to consult with the executive team, Jennifer said finally. This isn't a decision I can make unilaterally. Then consult. Ava stood, and Ethan automatically stood with her. But make it clear that termination isn't an option we're considering. And Jennifer, we came to you. We're being transparent. That should count for something. Jennifer nodded slowly. I'll be in touch. Mr. Cole, you're not to discuss this meeting with anyone. Miss Sterling, the same applies to you, despite your position. Understood, Ava said. They left the conference room separately. Ava first, then Ethan 30 seconds later. It was ridiculous, this performance of distance after they'd just sat there together, but Ethan followed the script. He walked back to his office with his heart still racing, sat down at his desk, and stared at his computer screen without seeing anything on it. His phone buzzed, a text from Ava. My place, 7 p.m. We need to talk. Ethan closed his eyes. We need to talk. 4 words that had never meant anything good in the history of human communication. But before he could spiral too far down that path, another notification appeared. This one from his daughter's daycare. Maya had a great day. She painted you a picture. Maya. 7 years old, gap-toothed smile, obsessed with dinosaurs, and convinced that she could communicate with the neighbor's cat. The reason Ethan got up every morning. The reason he'd fought so hard to build something stable after her mother left. The reason this whole thing with Ava was so impossibly complicated. 4 months earlier. Ethan had not wanted to go to the wedding. That needed to be stated clearly, for the record. When his college roommate Marcus had invited him, insisted really, with the kind of enthusiasm that only grooms-to-be could muster, Ethan's first 17 responses had been variations of, I can't. He had Maya that weekend. He didn't have anyone to watch her. Weddings were expensive, between the gift and the suit rental and the gas money to drive 3 hours upstate. He was tired. He had reports due. His life was full enough without adding social obligations that required him to make conversation with strangers while wearing uncomfortable shoes. But Marcus had worn him down. Bring Maya, he'd said. Seriously, man, Kelly's nephew will be there. They can play together. And you need to get out. When's the last time you did something that wasn't work or parenting? Ethan had not had a good answer to that question. So here he was, standing on the lawn of some resort that probably cost more for one weekend than Ethan made in 2 months, watching Maya chase Marcus's new wife's nephew around a fountain while trying not to think about how much he didn't belong here. The wedding had been nice, traditional. The reception was happening inside, all clinking glasses and a DJ playing songs that Ethan half recognized from when he'd had time to listen to music. He'd made his appearance, congratulated the happy couple, and then quietly extracted himself to stand out here in the early evening air where he could keep an eye on Maya and not have to explain to anyone why he was attending a wedding solo. You hiding too? Ethan turned. The woman walking toward him was not someone he'd expected to see here. He knew her. Not well, but enough. Ava Sterling. She worked at Sterling Industries, same as him, though in what capacity Ethan had never been entirely clear. He'd seen her in meetings, heard her name. She was someone important, that much was obvious, but the corporate hierarchy was complicated enough that Ethan had never bothered to map out exactly where she fell on it. Not hiding, Ethan said, supervising. Ava followed his gaze to where Maya was now attempting to climb onto the fountain's edge while the other kid cheered her on. That's yours? That's mine. Maya, she's 7 and convinced she's invincible. I was like that once. Ava stopped beside him, maintaining a polite distance. She was wearing a dress, dark blue, simple, elegant in a way that probably meant it was expensive. Her hair was down, which was different from how she wore it at work. Then I turned 8 and broke my arm falling off a playground structure. Reality hit hard. Ethan smiled despite himself. Maya broke her wrist last year trying to jump off the couch like a superhero. Didn't slow her down at all. She just made everyone sign her cast and then insisted the doctor make it purple. Smart kid. Stubborn kid. Ethan watched as Maya successfully balanced on the fountain's edge, arms spread wide like she was walking a tightrope. How do you know Marcus? College, Ava said. We had a philosophy class together freshman year, spent the whole semester arguing about free will. He insisted everything was predetermined. I maintained we were all making it up as we went. Who won? Neither. We both got B's. Ava tilted her head slightly. You're Ethan Cole. It wasn't a question, but Ethan nodded anyway. You're Ava Sterling. I am. They stood there for a moment in a silence that wasn't quite comfortable but wasn't entirely awkward either. Maya had moved on from the fountain to examining some decorative rocks. The other kid now apparently invested in helping her build something. I didn't peg you for a wedding person, Ava said eventually. I'm not. Marcus is persuasive. He really is. Ava glanced back toward the reception hall. I give it 20 more minutes before someone finds us and tries to drag us back inside for the bouquet toss. I should be safe from that. You'd think, but I've been to weddings where they made everyone participate. Very aggressive about it. She paused. You want to get out of here? Ethan blinked. What? There's a diner about 2 miles down the road. I passed it on the way here. Looked decent. We could grab actual food instead of these tiny portions they're serving inside. Let the kids play somewhere that won't result in them falling into decorative water features and avoid the electric slide. It was a bad idea. Ethan knew it was a bad idea even as he found himself considering it. Ava Sterling wasn't just some random wedding guest. She was someone from work. Someone he'd have to see on Monday morning. Running off to a diner together felt like crossing a line he couldn't quite identify, but knew existed. I don't know, he started. It's just food, Ava said. Her tone was light, but something in her expression suggested she understood exactly what calculation he was running. No expectations, no weirdness, just two people escaping a wedding before the Cupid shuffle starts. Maya chose that moment to run over, slightly out of breath and grinning. Dad, Jake says there's cake inside. Can we get cake? After dinner, Ethan said automatically. But the cake is now. Then it'll still be there after you eat actual food. He looked at Ava, then back at Maya. How do you feel about diners? Maya's eyes went wide. Like the one with the big pancakes? Probably, yeah. Yes! Maya pumped her fist in the air, then grabbed Ethan's hand. Can Jake come? Jake probably needs to stay with his family, Bug. Oh. Maya's face fell for approximately 3 seconds before she rallied. Okay, but can I get chocolate milk? We'll negotiate. Ava was smiling now, a real smile, not the polite version she'd probably deployed 100 times inside the reception. I'll meet you there. White Honda in the parking lot. Blue Toyota, Ethan replied, the one that needs a wash. Don't they all? Yeah, the diner was exactly what it promised to be. Slightly worn booths, laminated menus with too many options, and a waitress who called everyone hon without irony. Maya ordered chicken fingers and chocolate milk after minimal negotiation. Ethan got a burger. Ava surprised him by ordering breakfast, pancakes and eggs, despite it being 6 in the evening. Breakfast food is superior at all hours, she said when she caught Ethan's expression. This is a hill I will die on. Noted. Maya spent the first 10 minutes testing the limits of Ava's patience, asking questions, stealing sugar packets to build a tower, narrating the plot of the last movie she'd watched in excruciating detail. But Ava didn't seem bothered. She answered Maya's questions seriously, helped reinforce the sugar packet tower when it threatened to collapse, and even seemed genuinely interested when Maya explained why pterodactyls were technically not dinosaurs. Your kid's pretty great, Ava said eventually, after Maya had excused herself to go examine the jukebox in the corner. She has her moments. Ethan watched Maya press her face against the jukebox glass. Her mom left when she was 3. It's been just us for a while now. He didn't know why he had said that. It wasn't information he usually volunteered, especially not to relative strangers. But something about sitting here in this diner, outside the context of work and weddings, and all the roles they normally played, made it feel acceptable. Ava didn't flinch or offer empty platitudes. That's hard. Some days more than others. Ethan took a drink of his coffee. What about you? Any kids secretly stashed somewhere? None. Not married either, despite what the tabloids keep trying to make happen. Tabloids? Ava's expression flickered, just for a second, and Ethan caught something he couldn't quite name. Sometimes, it's not a big deal. There was a story there, clearly, but before Ethan could decide whether to push, Maya came bounding back. Dad, the jukebox takes quarters. Can I have a quarter? Ethan dug into his pocket and produced 2 quarters. Pick something good. I will. Maya grabbed the coins and ran back to the jukebox. 30 seconds later, Don't Stop Believin' started playing through the diner's speakers. Classic choice, Ava said. She's very into Journey right now. Last month it was exclusively Beatles, the month before that show tunes. Ethan shook his head. I have no idea where she gets it from. I mostly listen to whatever's on the radio. Maybe she's just figuring out what she likes. Maybe. Their food arrived. They ate and talked about things that didn't matter. Favorite movies, worst jobs they'd ever had, the merits of various breakfast cereals. Maya returned periodically to report on her jukebox selections and steal fries from Ethan's plate. The conversation flowed easier than Ethan had expected, punctuated by comfortable silences that didn't need filling. It was close to 8 when they finally left, Maya half asleep and sticky with syrup, despite Ethan's best efforts with napkins. Ava walked them to his car. This was nice, she said. Better than the wedding. Significantly better than the wedding, Ethan agreed. He got Maya buckled into her car seat. She was already dozing, and then turned back to Ava. Thanks for suggesting it. Thanks for saying yes. Ava hesitated, and for the first time all evening, she looked uncertain. I know this is going to sound strange, but I don't really get to do this often. Normal conversations. With people who don't want something from me. Everyone wants something from everyone, Ethan said. That's just people. I guess. Ava smiled, but it was tinged with something sad. But you didn't even know who I was, did you, when I walked up to you? Ethan thought about lying, then decided against it. I knew you worked at Sterling Industries. I've seen you in meetings, but no, I didn't know who you were specifically. Good. Ava stepped back toward her own car. See you Monday, Ethan Cole. See you Monday, Ava Sterling. He didn't think much of it as he drove home. Just a nice evening, a break from routine, a conversation with someone who turned out to be more interesting than he'd expected. Maya slept in the back seat, and Ethan listened to the radio and thought about whether he had enough groceries to make breakfast tomorrow or if he'd need to stop at the store. It wasn't until Monday morning when he saw Ava's face on a magazine cover in the building's lobby. Sterling Industries CEO Ava. Sterling on Innovation and Leadership. That Ethan realized exactly who he'd spent Saturday evening eating pancakes with. He stood there in the lobby for a full minute, staring at the magazine, while people flowed around him on their way to the elevators. CEO. Not just someone important, not just someone in management. The actual CEO. You coming, Ethan? His coworker Sarah was holding the elevator door. Or are you planning to take root there? Yeah, Ethan managed. Yeah, I'm coming. He spent the elevator ride trying not to panic. It was fine. They'd had dinner. They'd talked. Nothing inappropriate had happened. Maya had been there the entire time, which automatically made it the world's most awkward potential date. Not that it had been a date, because it definitely hadn't been a date. This was fine. This was all completely fine. The elevator doors opened on his floor, and Ethan stepped out, already mentally composing the email he needed to finish before the 10 o'clock meeting. He made it 3 steps before he saw her. Ava was standing by the coffee station, talking to someone from legal. She was back in her work uniform, tailored suit, hair pulled back, that invisible barrier of authority that seemed to radiate from her. When she glanced up and saw Ethan, her expression didn't change. She gave him the same brief professional nod she probably gave everyone, but her eyes held something else. Recognition, acknowledgement, maybe amusement. Ethan nodded back and kept walking to his office. It was fine. Everything was fine. Except now, every time he saw her in meetings, he'd remember her arguing about breakfast food superiority. Every time he heard her give some polished presentation, he'd think about her helping Maya build a sugar packet tower. Every time someone mentioned the CEO, with the kind of reverence people reserve for untouchable figures, Ethan would remember the way she'd looked sitting across from him in that diner booth. Just a person, tired and real and somehow lonely, despite having everything. That was the moment, Ethan would think later, when everything started to shift. Not at the wedding, not at the diner, but in that brief exchange of glances in an office hallway, when they both silently agreed to pretend Saturday night hadn't happened while simultaneously acknowledging that it absolutely had. The weeks that followed established a pattern. Ethan saw Ava in meetings. They were professional. They were appropriate. They maintained exactly the kind of distance that an employee and a CEO should maintain. And then she started showing up at the coffee station at the same time as him. It was subtle enough that Ethan almost didn't notice at first. He had a routine: arrive at 7:30, get coffee, check emails, start actual work by 8. Ava was CEO. Her schedule was probably chaos incarnate. But increasingly often, when Ethan walked into the break room at 7:45, Ava would already be there. "Morning," she'd say. "Morning," he'd reply. They'd make their respective coffees in silence, maybe exchange a comment about the weather or the traffic, and then go their separate ways. It was nothing. It meant nothing. Except it kept happening. "You're here early again," Ethan said one Thursday, 3 weeks after the wedding. "Board meeting at 8, Ava replied, adding sugar to her coffee. Needed caffeine first. Fun. Thrilling. She stirred her coffee with more force than necessary. "You? Just my regular schedule. Early bird gets the quiet office." "Gets the worm," Ava corrected. "I prefer my version. Less worm-related." She smiled at that, quick and genuine, before the professional mask slid back into place. "Have a good day, Ethan." "You too." Another week. Another series of coffee station encounters. Ethan started timing his arrival differently, testing something he didn't want to name. If he came in at 7:30, Ava would be there at 7:35. If he delayed until 7:50, she'd appear at 7:55. "We have to stop meeting like this," Ava said one morning, deadpan. "People will talk." Ethan nearly dropped his coffee mug, but when he looked at her, she was smiling, actually smiling, not the polite professional version. "Sorry," she said. "Too much?" "No, just didn't expect it." Ethan recovered his grip on his mug. "Though you're right, this has become a very suspicious habit. We're both getting coffee. In the coffee room, where coffee is obtained." "Exactly. Totally normal. Completely mundane." They both knew it wasn't. That was the thing neither of them was saying. That these brief encounters had become the part of Ethan's day he looked forward to most. That Ava was clearly orchestrating her schedule to make them happen. That they were dancing around something neither of them had acknowledged. The first time they met outside work was an accident. Ethan was at the grocery store on a Wednesday evening, Maya in the cart despite being too big for it, when he heard a familiar voice in the next aisle. "No, I don't need 6 different varieties. Just grab one and let's go." Ethan rounded the corner and found Ava standing in front of the cereal section, phone to her ear, looking deeply frustrated. "I don't care which one. You're the assistant. Assist. Make a decision." She paused. "Yes, I know they're all different. That's why I said pick one. I trust your judgment more than I trust my ability to care about this right now." She hung up, closed her eyes for a long moment, and then opened them to find Ethan standing there with Maya. "Hi," Ethan said, because what else was there to say? "Hi." Ava looked at Maya. "Hey, Maya." "Hi." Maya waved enthusiastically. "We're getting ice cream. Dad said I could pick the flavor if I ate all my vegetables this week. And I did, so I'm getting chocolate chip cookie dough." "That's a solid choice," Ava said seriously. "I know." Maya turned to Ethan. "Can we get it now?" "In a minute, Bug. We need actual food first." Maya sighed with the weight of the world and slumped dramatically in the cart. Ava's lips twitched. "Rough day?" Ethan asked. "My assistant is buying me cereal. I've apparently reached a level of busy where I can't shop for my own breakfast food." Ava glanced at her phone. "I'm supposed to be at a dinner meeting in 40 minutes, but I haven't eaten anything since lunch, and that was coffee, which doesn't count." "Coffee is not lunch," Maya interjected from the cart. "Thank you, Maya." Voice of reason. Ava looked at Ethan. "I should let you go. Grocery shopping waits for no one." She started to walk away. Ethan made a decision. "There's a pizza place 2 blocks from here," he said. "Good pizza. Takes 20 minutes. You could eat actual food, skip the dinner meeting, and still have time to go home and eat your mysterious assistant-selected cereal." Ava stopped, turned. "I can't skip the dinner meeting." "Can you conference call it?" Ava paused. "Actually, yes. I could absolutely conference call it. It's just budget reviews. I don't need to be there in person." "Then get pizza with us." Ethan felt Maya's eyes on him but didn't look down. "No expectations, just food. And you'll have witnesses that you ate something other than coffee." "Witnesses are important," Maya agreed. Ava's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and Ethan saw her expression shift through several calculations he couldn't read. Okay, she said finally. Pizza, 20 minutes, but I'm buying. You don't have to. I'm the billionaire CEO, Ethan. Let me buy pizza. Maya gasped. You're a billionaire, like in movies? Sort of, Ava said, but with more boring meetings and less glamorous vacation montages. Do you have a pool? I have 3, actually. Dad, we need to be friends with her. Ethan covered his face with his hand. Maya. What? She has 3 pools. Ava was laughing now, actually laughing, and it transformed her entire face. I like your kid, Ethan Cole. She's a menace. I'm efficient, Maya corrected. They got pizza. Ava called into her meeting from the restaurant, phone on mute except when she needed to contribute, while Maya ate slice after slice and colored on the paper menus with crayons the waitress had provided. When Ava's meeting ended, she didn't leave. She ordered another drink and stayed, talking with Ethan about nothing important while Maya built a crayon fortress on the table. It was past 8 when they finally left. Maya was yawning, and Ethan was mentally calculating how late bedtime would be. Thank you, Ava said outside the restaurant. I needed this. Pizza? Normalcy. She pulled her jacket tighter against the evening chill. Sometimes I forget what it feels like. Ethan wanted to ask what she meant, but Maya was tugging on his hand and Ava's phone was buzzing again, and the moment passed. See you tomorrow, Ava said. Coffee station. 7:45. 7:45, Ethan confirmed. That night, after Maya was asleep, Ethan sat in his living room and admitted to himself that he was in trouble, because Ava Sterling wasn't just his CEO anymore. She was the person he looked for in the morning, the person whose smile made his chest feel tight, the person who remembered Maya's dinosaur facts and took her seriously and made Ethan feel like maybe, possibly, he wasn't doing this whole life thing entirely wrong, which was a problem, a significant problem, because she was still his boss, still functionally untouchable, still living in a world so far removed from his that the idea of anything between them was laughable. Ethan's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. This is Ava. Got your number from the employee directory. Hope that's not weird. Just wanted to say thanks again for tonight. Ethan stared at the message for a long time before responding. Not weird. And you're welcome. Thanks for the pizza. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, Maya was right. I should definitely be friends with you guys. Ethan smiled despite himself and typed back, the pools really sealed the deal, obviously. That's why I mentioned them. Strategic friendship building, calculated move, always. Ethan set his phone down, still smiling. This was fine. They were friends. Friends texted. Friends got pizza. Friends met at the coffee station in the morning. This was all completely, totally, definitely fine. His phone buzzed again. See you tomorrow, Ethan. See you tomorrow, Ava. Ethan went to bed telling himself that nothing had changed, that this was all perfectly professional and appropriate and normal. He was lying, of course, but sometimes people needed to lie to themselves a little bit before they were ready to face the truth. And the truth, that he was already falling for someone he couldn't have, that she might be falling too, that this was going to get complicated in ways neither of them could predict, wasn't something Ethan was ready to face yet. Not tonight. Tomorrow, maybe. Or the day after. Or the day after that. But not tonight. The texting became a habit before either of them acknowledged it was happening. It started simple enough. Ava would send Ethan a photo of something ridiculous from her day. A typo in a corporate presentation, a particularly aggressive motivational poster someone had hung in the executive suite, her assistant's increasingly bizarre cereal choices. Ethan would respond with observations from his own world, Maya's latest dinosaur drawing, the existential crisis happening in the break room over the new coffee machine, screenshots of the most incomprehensible data requests he'd received. Nothing flirty, nothing inappropriate, just 2 people sharing the small absurdities of their lives. Except it was happening every day, multiple times a day. And Ethan had started composing texts in his head during meetings, thinking Ava would find this funny whenever something ridiculous happened, which was how he ended up standing in his kitchen at 11:30 on a Thursday night, staring at his phone while Maya slept in the next room. The text from Ava read, "Can't sleep, brain won't shut off. Tell me something boring. Ethan should have said goodnight, should have put the phone down, should have recognized this for what it was, a line they were approaching too fast. Instead, he typed, "I spent 20 minutes today explaining to someone why you can't just make the data better through sheer force of will." Does that count as boring? That's frustrating, not boring. Try again. Maya made me watch the same dinosaur documentary 3 times this week. I can now identify a Parasaurolophus on sight. Impressive, but also not boring. You're very demanding for someone who's supposed to be trying to fall asleep. Maybe I don't actually want to fall asleep. Ethan's thumb hovered over the keyboard. The smart response was something light, deflecting. The truthful response was something he couldn't send. "Why not?" he typed instead. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. "Because when I'm asleep, I'm not talking to you." Ethan sat down at his kitchen table. His heart was doing something complicated in his chest. "Ava. I know what I'm doing. I know what this is. What is this?" The dots appeared and disappeared 3 more times before her response came through. "I don't know, but I think we should probably figure it out before someone else does." "Agreed." "Are you free Saturday?" Ethan closed his eyes. Saturday he had Maya. Saturday was park time or library time or whatever adventure she decided they needed to have. Saturday was not figure out what's happening with your CEO time. "I have Maya on Saturday." "Bring her. There's a science museum downtown. Good dinosaur exhibit. We can talk while she explores." It was a terrible idea. Ethan knew it was a terrible idea. Meeting outside of work, deliberately, with Maya there as some kind of buffer or witness or excuse, this was crossing a line they'd been very carefully not crossing. "Okay," he sent back. "What time?" They met at the museum at 10 on Saturday morning. Maya was vibrating with excitement from the moment Ethan told her where they were going. A museum with dinosaurs? And had spent the entire car ride listing facts about various prehistoric creatures with the enthusiasm of a sports commentator. Ava was waiting by the entrance, wearing jeans and a sweater that probably cost more than Ethan's monthly grocery budget, but looked normal enough that Maya didn't immediately identify her as a billionaire. "Hi!" Maya launched herself at Ava with the confidence of someone who'd decided they were friends. "Dad says you're meeting us here. Are you interested in dinosaurs? Do you have a favorite? Mine's the Therizanosaurus because it has big claws, but it was actually a herbivore, which I think is funny because it looks scary, but it just wanted to eat plants." "I don't have a favorite yet," Ava said seriously, "but I'm hoping to find one today. I can help you pick." Maya grabbed both their hands. "Come on!" She dragged them inside, already talking a mile a minute about what exhibits they needed to see first. Ethan caught Ava's eye over Maya's head, and something passed between them. An acknowledgement that they were here, doing this, deliberately choosing to blur lines that were supposed to stay sharp. The museum was crowded with families, which should have made Ethan feel better about the situation, but somehow didn't. They moved through the dinosaur exhibit with Maya as their enthusiastic guide, stopping at every display so she could read the placard and add her own commentary. "Did you know," Maya announced at the Triceratops skeleton, "that they probably didn't actually fight T-Rexes like in the movies? They probably just avoided each other because that's what most animals do." "Sounds smart," Ava said. "Conflict avoidance." "Exactly." Maya moved to the next display. "Dad, can I go look at the interactive thing over there?" "Stay where I can see you," Ethan said. Maya ran off toward a touchscreen display, leaving Ethan and Ava standing alone by a Stegosaurus. "She's great," Ava said quietly. "She's a lot," Ethan replied. "But yeah, she is." They watched Maya poke at the touchscreen for a moment before Ava spoke again. "I've been thinking about what I said Thursday night." "Yeah? I meant it. I don't know what this is, but I know I look forward to talking to you more than anything else in my day, and that's—" She paused. "That's not nothing." Ethan turned to face her properly. The museum noise faded to background static. "It's not nothing," he agreed, "but it's also complicated. Because I'm your boss. Because you're my boss. Because I have Maya. Because our lives don't—" Ethan gestured vaguely. "They don't match up, Ava. You have 3 pools. I stress about daycare fees. I don't care about any of that. You should. I do." Ethan shoved his hands in his pockets. "I've got responsibilities. I can't just— This isn't just about me. Maya's already attached to you. If this goes wrong, if what goes wrong? Ava's voice was soft but insistent. We haven't even defined what this is. Exactly. That's the problem. Maya came running back before Ava could respond. They have a whole section on marine reptiles. Can we go see? Lead the way, Ethan said. They spent another hour in the museum, the conversation from before hanging unfinished between them. Maya filled the silences with facts about plesiosaurs and mosasaurs, oblivious to the tension. When they finally left, the afternoon sun was bright and harsh after the museum's dim lighting. Ice cream? Ava suggested. There's a place around the corner. Maya's eyes went wide. Can we, Dad? Ethan should have said no. Should have taken Maya home, put distance between himself and whatever was developing with Ava. Instead, he found himself nodding. The ice cream shop was small and crowded. They got their orders. Maya's chocolate chip cookie dough, Ethan's vanilla, Ava's something complicated with caramel and sea salt, and found a table outside. So, Ava said, after Maya had wandered over to watch someone's dog tied up nearby, we should probably finish that conversation. Probably, Ethan agreed. I'll go first. Ava set down her ice cream. I like you. I like talking to you. I like that you treat me like a person instead of a position. I like your kid. I like that you're careful and thoughtful and you don't just say things you think I want to hear. She met his eyes. And I know all the reasons this is complicated, but I'm tired of pretending I don't feel what I feel. Ethan's ice cream was melting. He watched it drip down the side of the cone. I like you too. That's the problem. That's only a problem if we make it one. Ava, you're the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. I'm a mid-level data analyst. The power dynamic alone is something we'd have to navigate carefully, Ava interrupted. I know, I'm not naive about this, but I'm also not willing to write off something real just because it's inconvenient. Is it real? The question came out quieter than Ethan intended. Or is this just, I don't know, the novelty of someone who doesn't know your net worth by heart? Ava flinched. That's not fair. Isn't it? You said it yourself. I didn't know who you were at first. Maybe that's all this is. Someone who sees you differently because they don't have all the context. And maybe, Ava said evenly, you're scared, so you're trying to talk yourself out of this before it even starts. Maya came back before Ethan could formulate a response, climbing into her chair and attacking her ice cream with renewed focus. Ava smiled at her, but the smile didn't quite reach her eyes. They finished their ice cream, making small talk about nothing important. When they said goodbye in the parking lot, Ava hugged Maya and gave Ethan a look he couldn't interpret. Think about it, she said. That's all I'm asking. Ethan thought about it. He thought about it while he made Maya dinner. Thought about it while he gave her a bath and read her bedtime stories. Thought about it while he sat alone in his living room, staring at his phone. At 10:30, he texted her. You're right. I'm scared. Her response came back immediately. Of what? Screwing this up? Losing my job? Maya getting hurt if this doesn't work? You realizing I'm not actually interesting once the novelty wears off? That's a lot of fear. I'm aware. For what it's worth, I'm scared too. Of what? Same things, different angles. Also scared that I'm being selfish. That I want this enough that I'm not seeing the problems clearly. Ethan stared at that message for a long time. So what do we do? We could be careful. Keep it quiet until we figure out if this is something real. No one at work needs to know while we're still working it out. That's a lot of sneaking around. Or we could be honest. Go to HR now. Declare the relationship before it's even really a relationship. Deal with whatever consequences come. That's terrifying. Also, yes. Ethan set his phone down, then picked it up again. Third option, we stop this now. Stay professional. Pretend Saturday didn't happen. The response took longer this time. When it came, it was just 2 words. Could you? The honest answer was no. Ethan had already thought about Ava more in the past month than he'd thought about anyone in years. She'd worked her way into his routine, his thoughts, the small moments of his day. Stopping now would be like trying to unlearn something he'd already memorized. No, he typed back. Could you? Not even a little bit. So we're doing this, carefully, quietly, until we know what this actually is. And then we figure it out together. Ethan exhaled slowly. Okay. But we need ground rules. Agreed. List them. Ethan thought for a moment, then started typing. No one at work knows. We're professional when we're there. No special treatment. If anything, you should probably be harder on me than everyone else, just to avoid any appearance of favoritism. Done. What else? Maya comes first. Always. If this starts affecting her negatively, we stop. Absolutely. She's the priority. And we're honest with each other about what we're feeling, what we're worried about when things get complicated, especially when things get complicated. Anything else? Ava's response took a minute. When we're not at work, can I actually take you on a date? Like a real one, not museums with your 7-year-old as a chaperone? Ethan smiled despite himself. Yeah. You can take me on a real date. Tomorrow night? I need to find a babysitter. Take your time. I'll wait. Ethan found a babysitter, Marcus's wife Kelly, who owed him a favor and asked 0 questions when he said he had plans. On Sunday evening, he dropped Maya off at their place and drove to the address Ava had sent him. It was a restaurant Ethan had never heard of, tucked into a quiet street downtown. The kind of place that didn't have its prices on the menu, which made Ethan's stomach twist with anxiety even as he walked through the door. Ava was already there, sitting at a table in the corner. She dressed up, nothing over the top, but enough that Ethan felt underdressed in his button-down shirt and slacks. "You look nice," she said when he sat down. "You look better." Ethan picked up the menu, glanced at it, and tried not to react to the complete absence of dollar signs. "This place is too much?" Ava asked. "I can pick somewhere else. I just thought—" "It's fine," Ethan interrupted. "Just different from my usual." "Your usual being?" "Pizza, diners, anywhere that offers a kid's menu." Ava smiled. "We can go get pizza after this if you want. I just wanted to do this right. Proper date. No dinosaur facts or sugar packet towers." "I like the dinosaur facts and sugar packet towers." "I do too. But I also wanted to take you somewhere nice. Is that okay?" Ethan set down the menu. "Yeah, it's okay." They ordered. The food was good. Great, actually, though Ethan had trouble focusing on it. He was too aware of Ava across from him, of the way she'd abandoned her usual CEO posture in favor of something more relaxed, of the fact that this was actually happening. "Tell me something I don't know about you," Ava said over wine that probably cost more than Ethan's weekly grocery budget. "Like what?" "Anything. Something real." Ethan thought about it. "I wanted to be a teacher. Before Maya, before everything got complicated. I was going to teach high school math." "Why didn't you?" "Because Maya's mom left, and teaching doesn't pay enough to cover daycare and rent and everything else. Data analytics paid better, more stable, so I switched." He took a drink. "I don't regret it, but sometimes I wonder about the version of my life where I made different choices." "Do you think you'd be happier?" "I don't know. Different, maybe. Not necessarily better." Ethan set down his glass. "Your turn. Something real." Ava was quiet for a moment. "I inherited the company when my father died. I was 26. Everyone expected me to fail. Some of them wanted me to fail. And for the first year, I was so scared that they were right that I barely slept. Just worked constantly, trying to prove I deserved to be there." "Did you prove it?" "Eventually, but I lost a lot in the process. Friends, relationships, any sense of having a life outside of work." She met his eyes. "That's why Saturday mattered. Why you matter. Because you're the first person in years who's made me feel like there might be something worth having outside of board meetings and profit margins." Ethan didn't know what to say to that. The weight of it settled between them, significant and fragile. "No pressure," Ava added with a slight smile. "Just honesty. That's the rule, right?" "Right." They talked through dinner about things both heavy and light, childhoods and career choices, favorite books and worst vacations, the small scars and victories that made up a life. By the time dessert arrived, Ethan had relaxed into it, the anxiety about prices and propriety fading into something easier. "I should get back," he said eventually, checking his phone. "Maya's bedtime was an hour ago. Kelly's probably dealing with negotiations about just 5 more minutes." "One of Maya's talents?" "One of many." Ava paid the bill despite Ethan's attempt to argue about splitting it. They walked out to the parking lot together, and Ethan tried not to think too hard about what came next. "I had a good time," Ava said. "Can we do this again?" "Yeah, definitely." "Good." Ava stepped closer, and Ethan's breath caught. I'm going to kiss you now, if that's okay. That's okay. It was a good kiss. Better than good. The kind of kiss that made Ethan forget momentarily about all the complications and consequences and just focus on the fact that Ava Sterling was kissing him in a parking lot and it felt right. When they broke apart, Ava was smiling. Okay, now I'm really glad we're doing this. Me too. Text me when you get home? Always do. Ethan drove back to pick up Maya with his head spinning. Kelly answered the door with a knowing smirk. Good date? None of your business, Ethan replied, but he was smiling. Maya's asleep on the couch. She tried to stay up but crashed around 8:30. Kelly leaned against the doorframe. So are you going to tell me who she is, or am I supposed to pretend I didn't notice you've been different lately? Different how? Happier, less tired, checking your phone every 5 minutes. Kelly crossed her arms. Marcus thinks it's someone from work. Ethan's stomach dropped. Why would he think that? Because you're terrible at hiding things, and you've mentioned someone named Ava approximately 15 times in casual conversation over the past month. I haven't. You have. It's fine. I'm happy for you. Just be careful, okay? Office relationships get messy. I know. We're being careful. Kelly looked skeptical but didn't push. Go get your kid. She's drooling on my throw pillows. Ethan carried Maya to the car, got her buckled in, and drove home. She woke up enough to stumble into bed when they arrived, and Ethan tucked her in with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. His phone buzzed as he was leaving her room. Ava. Did you make it home? Just got Maya to bed. Kelly gave me grief about being obvious. How obvious? She knows I'm seeing someone. Doesn't know who. Yet. Are you worried? Ethan sat on his couch and considered the question honestly. Yeah, but not enough to stop. Good. Because I'm not stopping either. They fell into a rhythm over the next few weeks. At work, they were scrupulously professional. Ava was demanding in meetings, critical of his work when it deserved criticism, and never gave him any special consideration. To anyone watching, they were exactly what they were supposed to be, CEO and employee. Nothing more. Outside of work, it was different. They texted constantly, had dinner when Ethan could arrange babysitting, met for coffee on Saturday mornings before Ava joined him and Maya for whatever adventure Maya had planned. It was working, sort of. A careful balance that required constant attention and adjustment, but it was also getting harder to maintain the separation. You've been distracted lately, Ethan's coworker Derek said one afternoon. They were reviewing quarterly projections, and Ethan had lost track of the conversation twice. Sorry, a lot on my mind. Anything you want to talk about? Just life stuff, nothing work-related. Derek looked unconvinced but let it drop. Ethan made it through the rest of the meeting and went back to his office, closing the door and leaning against it. His phone buzzed. Ava, missing you. You saw me 3 hours ago in the budget meeting. I know, still missing you. Ethan smiled despite himself. Tonight, after I put Maya to bed, I'll be waiting. That night, after Maya was asleep, Ethan drove to Ava's apartment downtown, the one she actually lived in, not the mansion the tabloids were obsessed with. It was nice but not ostentatious, decorated like someone who'd hired a professional but hadn't bothered to add much personality beyond that. I keep meaning to make this place feel more like home, Ava said when she caught him looking at the generic art on the walls. But I'm never here long enough to care. Where are you usually? Office. Other cities for meetings? Nowhere that matters. She handed him a glass of wine. This is the first time in months I've actually wanted to be somewhere. They sat on her couch, close but not quite touching, talking about their days. It felt normal in a way that nothing else in their relationship did. Just two people unwinding together, sharing space and conversation. Maya asked about you yesterday, Ethan said eventually. Wanted to know when she'd see you again. What did you tell her? That you were busy, but we'd figure something out. Ethan took a drink. She's attached. That's what I was worried about. I'm attached too, Ava said quietly, to both of you. Yeah? Yeah. She shifted closer, and Ethan set down his wine glass. I know we said we'd keep this quiet until we figured out what it was, but I think I know what it is now. What is it? Something real. Something I want to keep. Ava's hand found his. You were right that night at the museum. Our lives don't match up easily. But I don't care about easy anymore. I care about this. Ethan kissed her and she kissed him back. And for a while they stopped talking altogether. Later they lay on her couch, Ethan's head on her shoulder, both of them staring at the ceiling. We should tell someone, Ava said. Officially, before it comes out some other way. HR? Eventually, but maybe we start smaller. Tell the people who matter. She turned to look at him. I could tell my assistant. You could tell your friends. Just so we're not carrying this alone. And then HR? And then HR, Ava agreed. Soon, before the restructuring announcement. Better to be honest before things get complicated. Things are already complicated. Fair point. More complicated then. Ethan's phone alarm went off, his reminder to head home before it got too late. He silenced it reluctantly. Stay, Ava said. Just tonight. You can leave early, before anyone would see. It was tempting, but Ethan shook his head. Maya might wake up. She'll panic if I'm not there. I know. Rain check? Rain check. He kissed her goodbye and drove home through empty streets, his mind already spinning through the conversation they'd just had. Telling people. Making it real. Opening themselves up to judgment and complications and all the things they'd been trying to avoid. But Ava was right. They couldn't keep hiding forever. And maybe, if they were honest from the start, they could navigate this without everything falling apart. His phone buzzed at a red light. Ava, I love you. Ethan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. She'd said it, just like that, casually, over text. No preamble, no perfect moment, just truth. He waited until he was parked in his driveway to respond. I love you too. Yeah? Yeah. I think I have for a while now. Good. That makes what comes next easier, does it? No. But at least we'll know why we're doing it. Ethan sat in his car for another few minutes, staring at that message. Then he got out, went inside, checked on Maya, and collapsed into bed. Tomorrow they'd start telling people. Next week, maybe, they'd go to HR. Eventually, the whole company would know. But tonight, for just a few more hours, it was still their secret. Still something fragile and new and entirely theirs. Ethan fell asleep with his phone on his chest, Ava's last text still glowing on the screen. Whatever happens, we're in this together. He believed her. That was the terrifying part. He actually believed her. And that meant everything was about to change. The restructuring announcement came on a Tuesday morning, delivered via company-wide email at 8:50. Ethan was halfway through his first coffee when his inbox pinged, and he opened the message without thinking much of it. Sterling Industries to undergo strategic reorganization, read the subject line, and Ethan's stomach immediately dropped. He scanned the email quickly. Department consolidations, role evaluations, a new reporting structure to be announced within 6 weeks. All very corporate, all very sanitized, but the subtext was clear. People were going to lose their jobs, and everyone else was going to spend the next month and a half in a state of anxiety wondering if they'd be among them. His phone buzzed. Ava. I know how this looks. I'm sorry. Board mandated it. Call you tonight. Ethan set his phone down and read the email again, more slowly this time. The data analytics department wasn't specifically mentioned, but that didn't mean anything. Consolidations could mean mergers with other departments. Role evaluations could mean his position was redundant. And now, with his relationship with Ava still undisclosed, any decision about his future would be viewed through the lens of suspicion. Did you see this? Sarah appeared in his doorway, waving her phone. We're all getting reorganized. Mark from accounting says they're cutting at least 15% of staff. Mark from accounting doesn't know anything, Ethan said, though he had no idea if that was true. Still, this is bad timing with the Jenkins contract ending. We're already stretched thin. Yeah. Sarah lingered in the doorway, clearly wanting to discuss it further, but Ethan couldn't focus. His mind was already running calculations. If the relationship came out now, in the middle of restructuring, it would look like favoritism no matter what happened to his job. If he kept it, people would assume Ava had protected him. If he lost it, people would assume she'd thrown him under the bus to avoid appearance of bias. There was no good outcome here, just varying degrees of bad. The office spent the rest of the day in controlled chaos. People clustered in break rooms, trading rumors and speculation. Productivity dropped to nearly zero as everyone refreshed their emails compulsively, waiting for more information that never came. Ethan kept his head down and tried to work, but every time his phone buzzed, his heart rate spiked. Most of the messages were from colleagues sharing gossip or anxiety. A few were from Ava, short and apologetic, promising they'd talk later. At 4:30, Derek stopped by again. "Want to grab a drink after work? Drown our sorrows together?" "Can't," Ethan said. "I've got to pick up Maya." "Right, the kid." Derek leaned against the doorframe. "You doing okay? You seem more stressed than everyone else, and that's saying something today." "I'm fine, just processing." "Well, process faster. We need you functional for the Harrison presentation tomorrow." "I'll be functional." Derek didn't look convinced, but he left anyway. Ethan waited until his footsteps faded, then closed his office door and called Ava. She answered on the first ring. "I can't really talk right now. I'm in back-to-back meetings." "When did you know about this?" Ethan kept his voice low. "The board finalized it last week. I fought against it, but I was outvoted." "Ethan, I couldn't warn you. That would have been—" "I know. I'm not saying you should have." Ethan rubbed his face. "But we need to go to HR, now, before the restructuring happens." "Agreed. I was thinking the same thing." "When?" "This week. I'll set up a meeting with Jennifer for Thursday. We tell her everything, establish the timeline, make it clear this started before any decisions were made about restructuring. And if she decides I'm a liability anyway?" Ava was quiet for a moment. "Then we deal with it. Together. Like we said. Right. Together. I have to go. Board meeting in 2 minutes. But Ethan, we're going to be okay." "You don't know that." "No," Ava admitted. "But I need to believe it anyway." They hung up, and Ethan sat alone in his office, staring at the email about restructuring until the words stopped making sense. Then he packed up his things and went to pick up Maya. She was in a good mood, chattering about a project they'd done in school involving papier-mâché and an unfortunate incident with too much glue. Ethan listened with half his attention, making appropriate responses while his mind spun through worst-case scenarios. "Dad, you're not listening," Maya said accusingly from the back seat. "I am. You said something got stuck. That was 5 minutes ago. Now I'm talking about the field trip next month. Can I go? It's to the aquarium." "Yeah, Bug. You can go." "You didn't even ask how much it costs." She was right. He hadn't. Ethan glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "How much does it cost?" $25, plus we need to bring lunch." "Then yes, definitely, we'll make it work." Maya was quiet for a moment. "Are you okay? You seem weird." "Just work stuff. Nothing for you to worry about." "Is it bad work stuff?" Ethan considered lying, then decided against it. Maya could smell dishonesty from a mile away. "It's complicated work stuff, but I'm handling it." "Okay." Maya went back to looking out the window. "Is Ava coming over this weekend?" "I don't know yet. Why?" "Because I want to show her the project I made, the one with the glue. It's a dolphin, kind of. It's supposed to be a dolphin. I'm sure she'd love to see it." "Do you think she likes me?" The question caught Ethan off guard. "Of course she likes you. Why would you think she doesn't?" "I don't know. Just wondering." Maya was still looking out the window, but her voice had gone small. "My friend Emma said her dad has a girlfriend, and the girlfriend doesn't like Emma very much. So Emma has to stay with her mom more now." Ethan's chest tightened. "Ava's not like that. She thinks you're great." "You promise?" "I promise." "Okay." Maya seemed satisfied with that. "Can we have spaghetti for dinner?" "Sure, Bug. Spaghetti sounds good." That night, after Maya was in bed, Ethan called Ava back. She answered, sounding exhausted. "Long day?" he asked. "Endless day. The board was on me for 6 hours straight about the restructuring timeline. Everyone's got opinions about how to handle it." She sighed. "How's Maya?" "Good. Asked about you. Wanted to know if you're coming over this weekend." "I'd like to, if that's okay." "It's okay. But Ava—" Ethan paused, trying to figure out how to phrase it. "Maya asked if you like her. One of her friends has a situation where the dad's girlfriend isn't great to the kid, and I think it's making her nervous. I do like her, obviously. I know, I told her that, but she's 7. She's going to need more reassurance as this gets more serious. So it is serious, Ava said quietly. We're saying that now, aren't we? Yeah, we are. He could hear her shifting, probably settling into her couch. I met with Jennifer's assistant today. We're scheduled for Thursday at 2. She knows it's important, but not what it's about. Are you scared? Terrified. You? Same. They talked for another hour about nothing in particular, both of them avoiding the elephant in the room, that in 2 days they'd walk into that HR office and potentially blow up everything they'd been carefully building. When they finally hung up, Ethan lay in bed staring at the ceiling, running through possible conversations in his head. None of them ended well. Thursday arrived too quickly. Ethan spent the morning in a state of controlled panic, double-checking his work and making sure everything was documented properly in case he needed to hand it off to someone else. He ate lunch at his desk without tasting it, watching the clock creep toward 2. At 1:55, his phone buzzed. Ava, meeting room C. I'm already here. Ethan took the stairs instead of the elevator, needing the extra minute to compose himself. When he reached the 3rd floor, he found the meeting room easily. Through the glass wall, he could see Ava sitting at the table, shoulders straight, expression neutral. Jennifer Park sat across from her, already reviewing something on her tablet. Ethan took a breath and opened the door. Jennifer looked up. Mr. Cole, please sit. He sat next to Ava, careful to maintain appropriate distance. Jennifer watched them both with the kind of professional assessment that made Ethan feel like a specimen under a microscope. Ms. Sterling indicated this meeting was urgent, Jennifer began, and that it involved a matter requiring immediate disclosure. I assume this relates to the two of you? Yes, Ava said. Her voice was steady, controlled. Ethan and I are in a relationship. It began approximately 3 months ago, outside of work context, and has developed into something serious. We're here to formally disclose it and discuss how to proceed appropriately. Jennifer's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. I see. And you've maintained this relationship secretly for 3 months, while you, Ms. Sterling, have had direct influence over company decisions that could affect Mr. Cole's employment. I've had no direct influence over his employment, Ava corrected. Ethan reports to Sarah Chen, who reports to Michael Rodriguez. I'm 4 levels removed from his direct supervision, and any company-wide decisions I've made have been evaluated and approved by the board, not made unilaterally. That's technically accurate, Jennifer said. But you understand how this appears, particularly given the restructuring announcement. We understand exactly how it appears, Ethan said. That's why we're here now, before any restructuring decisions are finalized. We want everything documented and transparent. Jennifer made a note on her tablet. Walk me through the timeline. When and where did this relationship begin? Ava glanced at Ethan, and he nodded slightly. She turned back to Jennifer. We met outside of work at a wedding in early February. Spoke briefly, exchanged numbers, started talking more frequently. By mid-March, it had developed into something more than friendship. And you didn't think to disclose this earlier? We wanted to determine if it was serious before bringing it to HR, Ethan said. We weren't trying to hide anything malicious. We were just trying to be sure it was real before we made it everyone's problem. Mr. Cole, I appreciate your honesty, but this is everyone's problem now. Ms. Sterling, you should have disclosed this relationship the moment it became romantic. The company policy is clear on this. I know the policy, Ava said, and you're right. We should have come forward sooner, but we're here now, and we're prepared to do whatever's necessary to handle this appropriately. Jennifer set down her tablet. Here's what's going to happen. First, I need to consult with the executive team and legal. This isn't a decision I can make alone. Second, Mr. Cole, you're going to need to recuse yourself from any projects that could involve direct interaction with Ms. Sterling until we determine next steps. Third, both of you need to understand that this could result in termination for one or both of you, depending on what legal determines about conflicts of interest and policy violations. Ethan's stomach dropped, but he kept his expression neutral. Beside him, Ava had gone very still. With respect, Ava said, her voice tight, Ethan has done nothing wrong. If there are consequences here, they should fall on me. I'm the one with more power in this dynamic. I'm the one who should have disclosed sooner. Ms. Sterling, that's not how this works. Then explain to me how it works, Ava interrupted. Because from where I'm sitting, we're being punished for being honest about something that most people would have just hidden. We came to you voluntarily. We're trying to do this right. And I appreciate that. But the policy exists for a reason. We can't have employees wondering if their colleagues are getting preferential treatment based on personal relationships with executives. Ethan hasn't gotten preferential treatment, Ava said. Check his performance reviews, check his project assignments, check anything. He's earned everything he has here. Jennifer's expression softened slightly. I believe that, Ms. Sterling, but belief isn't the same as proof, and in situations like this, appearance matters as much as reality. The meeting continued for another 40 minutes, going in circles. Jennifer asked questions. Ava and Ethan answered them. Nothing was resolved except that they'd hear back within a week about next steps. When they finally left the conference room, Ava headed back toward the executive floor without a word. Ethan watched her go, feeling the weight of what they'd just done settle on his shoulders. He made it back to his office and closed the door. His phone buzzed almost immediately. Ava, I'm sorry. I should have handled that better. You handled it fine. She's doing her job. Her job is going to get you fired. Maybe. Or maybe it won't. We don't know yet. I hate this. Me too. Ethan set his phone down and tried to focus on work, but his mind kept replaying the meeting. Jennifer's expression when they'd walked in. The way Ava's voice had gone sharp when Jennifer mentioned termination. The careful distance they'd maintained even while defending each other. At 5:30, Derek stuck his head in. You coming to the Harrison meeting tomorrow? We need to finalize the presentation. Yeah, I'll be there. You sure? You've been off all week. I'm fine. Derek looked skeptical but didn't push. When he left, Ethan packed up his things and headed out. He was halfway to his car when his phone rang. It was Maya's school. His heart immediately jumped. Mr. Cole, this is Principal Anderson. Maya's fine, but we had a small incident today. Can you come in tomorrow morning to discuss it? What kind of incident? Nothing serious, just some behavioral concerns, but we'd like to address them sooner rather than later. Ethan closed his eyes. I'll be there. 8:30 work? Perfect. Thank you. He got in his car and called the daycare to let them know he'd be late picking up Maya tomorrow. Then he sat there for a moment, letting the weight of everything crush down on him. Work falling apart. Maya having problems at school. The relationship he'd fought for potentially about to cost him everything. His phone buzzed. Ava, can I see you tonight? Not a good night. Maya's school called. I have to deal with something tomorrow morning. Is she okay? Physically, yes. Behaviorally, apparently not. Do you want me to come over? Ethan's first instinct was to say no, to handle it alone like he handled everything alone. But he was tired of alone. Yeah, he sent back. Come over after she's in bed. I'll be there. Maya was subdued when he picked her up, which was never a good sign. She didn't volunteer any information about school, and when Ethan asked how her day was, she just shrugged. Principal Anderson called me, he said carefully, said we need to talk tomorrow morning. Maya's face crumpled. I didn't mean to. Mean to what, Bug? I got mad at Emma. She was saying mean things about you having a girlfriend and how girlfriends always leave, and I pushed her. Not hard, just a little, but she fell and scraped her knee, and now I'm in trouble. Ethan pulled over into a parking lot. He turned around to look at Maya properly. Why was Emma saying mean things? Because her dad's girlfriend is mean, and she thinks all girlfriends are mean, and she said Ava probably doesn't really like us and is just pretending. Maya's eyes were welling up. But that's not true, right? Ava's not pretending? No, Bug. Ava's not pretending. Then why would Emma say that? Because Emma's dealing with her own stuff, and sometimes when people are hurt, they say things that aren't true. Ethan unbuckled and climbed into the back seat, pulling Maya into a hug. But pushing wasn't okay. Even if she was being mean. I know. Maya sniffled into his shoulder. I'm sorry. You can tell me that tomorrow, and Principal Anderson, and you'll apologize to Emma too. Okay. They sat there for a few more minutes before Ethan convinced Maya to get back in her regular seat. The drive home was quiet, and dinner was quieter. Maya picked at her food and went to bed early without protest. Ava arrived at 9 carrying takeout containers. I know you said Maya was in bed, but I figured you probably didn't eat. I didn't. Ethan took the containers. Thank you. They sat at his kitchen table, eating Thai food and not really talking about anything important. Ava didn't push, just let the silence exist between them while Ethan processed. She pushed another kid, he said finally, because the kid was saying mean things about us, about you. Ava set down her fork. What kind of things? That girlfriends always leave, that you're probably pretending to like us. Ethan rubbed his face. And I know logically that it's just kid drama, but Maya's already worried about this, about you being real, and now I'm wondering if we're being selfish, if I'm putting her through something she's not ready for. Do you want to stop? Ava's voice was careful, neutral. Is that what you're saying? No, maybe. I don't know. Ethan looked at her properly. I love you. That's not the question. The question is whether loving you is fair to Maya when everything is this complicated. What if I talked to her? Not as your girlfriend, just as someone who cares about her. Tried to make her feel more secure about this. You think that would help? I don't know, but I want to try. Ava reached across the table, taking his hand. I'm not going anywhere, Ethan. Whether HR decides I can keep my job or not, whether the restructuring goes well or crashes and burns, whether this gets messy or stays manageable, I'm not leaving, you or Maya. You can't promise that. I can promise I'm not going to walk away just because things get hard. That's a choice. I'm choosing to stay. Ethan's throat felt tight. Okay. Okay, you believe me? Or okay, you'll let me talk to Maya? Both. Ava came over that Saturday with a papier-mâché project of her own, a completely lopsided sea turtle that she claimed was intentionally abstract. Maya was delighted, and they spent the afternoon painting their respective creations while Ethan made lunch and tried not to hover. When Maya went outside to play, Ava stayed in the kitchen, helping Ethan clean up. I wanted to talk to you about something, she said, wiping down the counter. The restructuring. I'm going to recommend that your department stays intact. No consolidation, no role eliminations. Ava, you can't do that. That looks exactly like favoritism. It's not favoritism. It's good business. Your department is profitable and efficient. Cutting it would be stupid. She tossed the paper towel in the trash. But I wanted you to know that I'm going to fight for it. And if anyone questions my reasoning, I'll show them the numbers. What if they question it anyway? Then they question it. I can defend my decisions. Ava turned to face him. I'm not going to throw your career under the bus to make mine easier. That's not who I am. I know that. Do you? Ethan thought about it honestly. Yeah, I do. Good. Maya came back inside, demanding they come see the flower she'd found, and the serious conversation ended there. But later, after Ava had left and Maya was in bed, Ethan found himself thinking about the choice she'd made. To fight for his department. To be honest with HR. To keep showing up, even when things were complicated. That was love, he realized. Not the easy parts or the romantic parts, but the choosing to stay when leaving would be simpler. His phone buzzed. Ava. Jennifer called. They want to meet again Monday, both of us. Good news or bad news? She didn't say, just that they've made some decisions. Great. That's not ominous at all. We'll handle it. Whatever it is. Together? Together. Monday morning, Ethan dropped Maya at school early and headed straight to work. The weekend had done nothing to calm his nerves, and the meeting with Principal Anderson on Friday had been exactly as awkward as he'd expected. Maya had apologized. Emma's parents had been understanding, but firm. The whole thing had been exhausting. At 1:55, he made his way back to the third-floor conference room. Ava was already there, along with Jennifer and a man Ethan didn't recognize. Mr. Cole, this is David Chen from our legal department, Jennifer said. Please, sit. Ethan sat, his heart pounding. David Chen looked exactly like someone from legal, suit perfectly tailored, expression completely unreadable, tablet in hand with probably 50 documented reasons why Ethan was about to be terminated. We've reviewed your disclosure, Jennifer began, and consulted extensively with legal and the executive team. Here's what we've determined. Ms. Sterling, your relationship with Mr. Cole does constitute a conflict of interest under company policy, particularly given the current restructuring. However, given the timeline you've provided and Mr. Cole's documented performance record, we don't believe there's been any actual favoritism or policy violation that rises to the level of termination. Ethan felt some of the tension ease, but Jennifer wasn't done. That said, we need to address the appearance of impropriety. Mr. Cole, we're prepared to offer you a lateral transfer to a different department. Same level, same pay, but reporting through a completely different chain that has no connection to Ms. Sterling's direct oversight. This would eliminate the conflict while allowing you to remain with the company. What department? Ethan asked. Business development. They're looking for someone with strong analytics skills, and your background would be a good fit. You'd report to Karen Mitchell. The position starts immediately after the restructuring is finalized. Ethan glanced at Ava. Her expression was carefully neutral, but he could see the relief in her eyes. And if I don't want to transfer? David Chen spoke for the first time. Then we'd have to revisit the termination option. The conflict has to be resolved one way or another. So it's transfer or termination. Those are my choices. Those are the options that allow both of you to remain at Sterling Industries while maintaining policy compliance, Jennifer said. I know it's not ideal, but it's the best solution we could find. Ethan sat back in his chair processing. A different department meant different projects, different colleagues, different work. But it also meant he could keep his job, keep his stability, keep the life he'd built for Maya, while still being with Ava. Can I have some time to think about it? You have until end of business Wednesday, Jennifer said. After that, we'll need a decision. The meeting ended. Ava went back to her office. Ethan went back to his, closed the door, and put his head in his hands. His phone buzzed. Ava. You don't have to take the transfer if you don't want it. What are my other options? Get fired or break up with you? I could resign. Ava. No, that's insane. Is it? You have a daughter to support. I have money. I could walk away from Sterling Industries and be fine. And do what? You love this company. I love you more. Ethan stared at that message for a long time. Then he called her. You're not resigning, he said when she answered. I could. No. You spent years building that company into what it is. You're not walking away from it because of me. Then what are we doing? I'm taking the transfer, Ethan said. It's the smart choice. Same pay, same benefits, and we get to stay together without anyone being able to claim favoritism. You're sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Ava was quiet for a moment. Okay, if that's what you want. It's what makes sense. Sense isn't the same as want. I know, but sometimes sense has to win. Ethan leaned back in his chair. I'll tell Jennifer tomorrow. Ethan? Yeah? Thank you for not making me choose between you and the company. You shouldn't have to choose. That's the whole point. They hung up, and Ethan spent the rest of the day tying up loose ends on his current projects. By the time he left, he'd made peace with the decision. It wasn't perfect, but nothing about this situation was ever going to be perfect. That night, he told Maya about the transfer while they were eating dinner. So you'll have a different job? She asked. Different department, same company? I'll still work in the same building. Will you still see Ava? Not at work as much. But yeah, I'll still see her. Maya considered this. Is this because of us? Because you're dating? Yeah, Bug, it is. Is that okay? That you have to change jobs because of her? Ethan thought about how to answer that honestly. I'm not thrilled about it, but I'm doing it because being with Ava is important to me. And sometimes when things are important, you make sacrifices. Like when you stop teaching to take care of me. The question hit harder than Maya probably intended. Yeah, kind of like that. Do you regret it, stopping teaching? No, you're the best thing that ever happened to me. Is Ava the second best thing? Ethan smiled despite himself. Yeah, Bug. I think she might be. Good. Maya went back to her spaghetti. Because I like her. And I don't want you to be lonely. I'm not lonely when I have you. You know what I mean, Dad? She was 7 years old and somehow understood things that most adults struggled with. Ethan reached over and ruffled her hair, and she squirmed away, laughing. Wednesday morning, Ethan walked into Jennifer's office and accepted the transfer. By Thursday afternoon, it was official. By Friday, he was packing up his old desk and saying goodbye to colleagues who asked too many questions about why he was leaving. You're not getting fired, right? Sarah asked, helping him pack. Because if this is about the restructuring, it's not about the restructuring, just a lateral move, new opportunities. In business development, you hate sales. It's analytics for business development, not actual sales. Sarah didn't look convinced. Well, they're lucky to have you, even if this is weird timing. Everything's weird timing lately. He finished packing and carried his boxes to his new office 2 floors up. The space was identical to his old one. Same desk, same terrible fluorescent lighting, same view of the parking lot. But it felt different, like he was starting over in a place where no one knew him yet. Karen Mitchell stopped by at 4 to welcome him officially. She was in her 50s, direct without being harsh, and seemed genuinely pleased to have him on her team. "I've heard good things about your work," she said. "Looking forward to seeing what you can do here." "Thanks. I'm looking forward to it too." It was only half a lie. That weekend, Ava came over with Maya's approval, and they spent Saturday afternoon at the park. Maya ran around the playground while Ethan and Ava sat on a bench watching. "How's the new department?" Ava asked. "Fine. Different. Karen seems good to work with. But nothing. It's fine." Ava bumped her shoulder against his. "You're allowed to not like it. You're allowed to be frustrated." "I know." "Do you?" Ethan watched Maya climb the jungle gym. "I miss my old team. I miss knowing what I'm doing. I miss feeling competent instead of constantly off balance." "That's fair. But I'd do it again, make the same choice." He looked at her. "You know that, right?" "I know." Ava took his hand. "But I also know it cost you something, and I'm sorry for that." "Don't be. This is what we signed up for, complications and all." Maya came running over, breathless and grinning. "Dad, Ava, come push me on the swings." They spent the next hour doing exactly that, pushing Maya on swings, helping her across the monkey bars, catching her at the bottom of the slide. It was normal and domestic, and nothing like what Ethan had imagined his life would look like when he'd first seen Ava's name in his inbox months ago. But it was theirs. Complicated and imperfect and hard-won, but theirs. And that, Ethan thought, as he watched Ava help Maya build a castle in the sandbox, was worth every sacrifice he'd made, even the ones that still stung. The first month in business development was harder than Ethan wanted to admit. Karen was a good boss, clear about expectations, reasonable about deadlines, but the work itself felt like learning a new language. Instead of pure data analysis, he was now translating numbers into sales strategies, working with account managers who spoke in buzzwords and quarterly projections. His old job had been about finding patterns. This one was about convincing people those patterns mattered. "You'll get the hang of it," Karen said one afternoon when she caught him staring at his screen with obvious frustration. "You're thinking too much like an analyst. Start thinking like someone who needs to sell an idea." "I'm not a salesperson," Ethan said. "Good. We have enough of those. I need someone who can make the data tell a story clients actually want to hear." She tapped his desk. "Give it time." Time was something Ethan had, even if patience wasn't. He threw himself into the work, staying late most nights after picking up Maya, finishing projects after she went to bed. It was easier than sitting with the low-grade anxiety that had settled in his chest since the transfer, the constant awareness that he was the new guy again, that people were probably talking about why he'd switched departments so suddenly, that any mistake would be viewed through the lens of his relationship with Ava. The gossip had started almost immediately. Ethan heard whispers in the break room, saw the speculative looks when he walked past groups of colleagues. No one said anything directly, but the questions hung in the air like humidity before a storm. "Is it true you're dating someone from the executive team?" Derek asked him 3 weeks into the transfer. They'd grabbed coffee, old habits dying hard despite the department change. Ethan had been expecting this conversation. "Where'd you hear that?" "Sarah mentioned she saw you having dinner with Ava Sterling a few weeks ago, at that French place downtown." Derek stirred his coffee, with more attention than necessary. "And then you suddenly transferred departments right after the restructuring got announced. People are connecting dots. People should mind their business." "So it's true." Ethan set down his cup. "Yeah, it's true. We disclosed it to HR. They approved the transfer to eliminate any conflict. That's all there is to it." "That's all?" Derek raised an eyebrow. "Come on, man. The CEO? That's not exactly casual. It's also not a scandal. We followed protocol. We're being careful. I'm not judging. I'm just..." Derek paused. "Are you happy? Because you seem stressed as hell lately." The question caught Ethan off guard. "I'm fine." "That's not what I asked." Ethan thought about it. Was he happy? Parts of him were. The parts that got to be with Ava, that got to build something real with someone who understood him. But the rest of it, The job change, the gossip, the constant balancing act, that was exhausting. I'm managing, he said finally. It's complicated, but I'm managing. Derek nodded slowly. Well, for what it's worth, I think it's good. You've been different since you started seeing her. More alive or something. Just don't let the stress kill you. I'll try. They finished their coffee and went back to their respective departments. Ethan made it to his desk before his phone buzzed. Ava. How bad is the gossip? You heard? My assistant mentioned people are talking. I figured it had reached you by now. Derek asked about it. I confirmed. Didn't see the point in lying. Are you okay? Ethan looked at that message for a long moment. Ask me again when I'm not at work. Dinner tonight? My place? Can't. Maya has a school thing. Tomorrow? Tomorrow works. I'll cook. You cook? I can order takeout and put it on nice plates. Same thing. Despite everything, Ethan smiled. See you tomorrow. The school thing turned out to be a parent-teacher conference that Ethan had completely forgotten about until Maya's teacher sent a reminder that morning. He showed up at 6:30, tired and already dreading whatever behavioral concerns had prompted the meeting. Mrs. Patterson was young, enthusiastic, and clearly genuinely fond of Maya. She welcomed Ethan with a smile and gestured to a chair that was definitely designed for second graders, not full-grown adults. Thanks for coming in, Mr. Cole. I wanted to touch base about Maya's social adjustment lately. Ethan's stomach sank. Is she having problems? Not problems exactly, but I've noticed she's been more withdrawn in class, less likely to participate in group activities, and she got into that incident with Emma a few weeks ago, which isn't like her at all. She told me about that. They worked it out. They did. But I'm seeing a pattern of behavior that suggests Maya might be dealing with something at home. Change can be hard for kids this age, and I wanted to check in. Is everything okay? Any major transitions happening? Ethan considered how much to share. I'm seeing someone. It's new territory for Maya. She's adjusting. Ah. Mrs. Patterson's expression shifted to understanding. That makes sense. How's she handling it? She likes my girlfriend, but I think she's also scared. Her mom left when she was 3. The idea of someone new coming into our lives and potentially leaving again, it's a lot. Has she talked to you about these feelings? Some. We're working through it. Mrs. Patterson made a note on her tablet. Well, she's a resilient kid, smart, creative, generally well-adjusted. I'm not worried long-term, but in the short term, it might help to give her some extra reassurance. Let her know that her world is stable even if things are changing. I can do that. Good. And Mr. Cole, for what it's worth, I think it's wonderful that you're building a life beyond just parenting. Kids need to see their parents as whole people, not just caregivers. Ethan left the conference feeling simultaneously better and worse. Better because Mrs. Patterson wasn't reporting disaster. Worse because he'd been so focused on managing work and his relationship with Ava that he'd missed signs that Maya was struggling. When he picked her up from Kelly's, who'd watched her during the conference, Maya was quiet in the car. Mrs. Patterson says you've been withdrawn in class, Ethan said carefully. Want to talk about it? Maya shrugged. I don't know what that means. It means you're not participating as much, not raising your hand, not joining group activities. Oh, is something bothering you, Bug? Maya looked out the window. Are you going to marry Ava? The question hit Ethan sideways. We haven't talked about that. Why? Because Emma's dad married his girlfriend, and now Emma says she has to call her mom, even though she's not her real mom, and I don't want to call anyone mom. I don't even remember my real mom. Ethan pulled into their driveway and turned off the car. He twisted around to look at Maya properly. If I ever get married to Ava or anyone else, you wouldn't have to call them mom unless you wanted to. That's your choice, always. But what if they want me to? Then I'd tell them no. Your feelings matter more than what anyone else wants. Maya's eyes were welling up. I like Ava. I do. But I don't want things to change. Things are already changing, Bug. That's just life. But you and me? That doesn't change. You're my first priority, always. Promise? Promise. Maya unbuckled and climbed into the front seat, wrapping her arms around Ethan's neck. He held her while she cried, feeling like the world's most inadequate parent. He'd been so careful about the work situation, about HR and protocols and optics, but he'd missed the most important part, making sure Maya felt secure through all of it. That night, after Maya was finally asleep, Ethan called Ava. "Bad timing?" she answered. "No. Just needed to hear your voice." Ethan sank onto his couch. "Maya asked if we're getting married." Ava was quiet for a beat. "What did you say?" "That we haven't talked about it. Then she cried because she's scared of things changing and doesn't want to call anyone mom. And basically, I'm failing at this whole blended family thing before we even get there." "You're not failing. She's processing. That's healthy." "She's 7 and terrified. That's not healthy." "Ethan," Ava's voice was gentle but firm, "she's allowed to be scared. Change is scary. But she also likes me, right?" "She told you that?" "Yeah." "Then we build from there. We give her time. We let her set the pace." Ava paused. "Can I come over this weekend? Spend some real time with her, not just quick visits at the park? Let her see that I'm not trying to replace anyone or change her life. Just be part of it." "You sure you want to sign up for a 7-year-old's weekend? It's a lot of dinosaur documentaries and negotiating about vegetables." "I'm sure." "Okay. Saturday? I'll be there." Saturday morning, Ava showed up at 9 with a bag of bagels and what appeared to be genuine enthusiasm for whatever Maya wanted to do. Maya predictably wanted to go to the Science Museum again. Different exhibits this time, with a special focus on the ocean section. They spent 4 hours there. Ava asked Maya questions about the displays, listened to her explanations about coral reefs and deep-sea creatures, and even gamely participated when Maya insisted they all try the interactive submarine simulator. "That was terrible," Ava said afterward, laughing. "We crashed into the reef like 5 times. 6, Maya corrected. "But the 6th one wasn't my fault. Dad hit the wrong button." "Definitely Dad's fault," Ethan agreed. They got lunch at the museum cafe. Overpriced sandwiches that Maya demolished while explaining the difference between an octopus and a squid. Ava listened with what appeared to be genuine interest, asking follow-up questions and making Maya feel heard. "Do you know a lot about ocean stuff?" Maya asked eventually. "Not really," Ava admitted, "but I like learning about it. You're a good teacher." "Thanks. Dad says I talk too much sometimes." "I say you have a lot of thoughts worth sharing," Ethan corrected. "There's a difference." After lunch, Maya dragged them to the gift shop, where she spent 20 minutes agonizing over which stuffed sea creature to buy with her allowance. Ava watched patiently while Maya debated between a sea turtle and a manta ray, eventually choosing the turtle because it looks friendly. "Good choice," Ava said seriously. On the drive home, Maya fell asleep in the back seat, clutching her new turtle. Ava glanced back at her and smiled. "She's great," she said quietly. "She is. When she's not terrified that you're going to upend her life." "I won't." "You can't promise that." "Neither can I." Ethan kept his eyes on the road. "Things change. People leave. She knows that already. Then we show her that some people stay." Ava reached over and took his hand. "I'm not her mom. I'm not trying to be. But I can be someone who's consistently here, who shows up, who cares about her because she matters to you and because she's a pretty amazing kid on her own." She asked if we're getting married. "I heard. What do you think about that?" Ethan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "I think it's too soon to talk about marriage. We've barely survived the HR disclosure." "That's not what I asked." "What are you asking?" "Do you want to marry me? Eventually, hypothetically, in some future where we've figured this out?" The question hung in the air between them. Ethan took a breath. "Yeah," he said finally. "Eventually, hypothetically. I want that." "Good, me too." They didn't talk about it more after that. The conversation felt too big for a car ride with Maya asleep in the back seat. But it stayed with Ethan for the rest of the day, settling into his chest like a promise. Over the next few weeks, Ava started spending more time at their house. Not moving in, they were both clear about maintaining boundaries, but present enough that Maya got used to her being around. She'd come over for dinner on weeknights, help Maya with homework, watch documentaries without complaint. Slowly, carefully, she built trust. "Do you like my dad?" Maya asked one evening while they were coloring at the kitchen table. Ethan was cooking dinner and could hear the conversation from the stove. "I do," Ava said. "I like him a lot." "Why?" "Lots of reasons. He's kind, he's funny, He's a good dad. He makes me feel like I can be myself instead of having to be perfect all the time. Maya considered this. Do you like me? Yeah, Maya. I really like you. Even though I talk a lot? Especially because you talk a lot. You say interesting things. Emma says I'm annoying. Emma's wrong. Ava set down her crayon. You want to know something? When I was your age, people said I talked too much too, that I asked too many questions, and it made me feel bad, so I stopped talking as much. I got quieter. And you know what happened? What? I lost part of myself. The part that was curious and excited about things. And it took me a long time to get that back. Ava tapped Maya's drawing. So don't stop talking. Don't stop asking questions. The people who matter will listen. Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she went back to coloring, but Ethan saw her smile. That night, after Maya was in bed, Ava helped Ethan clean up the kitchen. Thank you, he said, for what you told her earlier, about not getting quiet. I meant it. She reminds me of myself sometimes. Smart kid who doesn't fit into neat boxes. She's lucky to have you around. I'm lucky to be around. They finished the dishes in comfortable silence. When Ava finally left around 10, Ethan stood in his doorway watching her drive away, feeling something settle in his chest. This was working. Slowly, imperfectly, with plenty of rough edges. But it was working. The breakthrough came a month later, on a random Tuesday afternoon. Ethan got a call at work from Maya's school. She'd had an accident on the playground, nothing serious, but she'd hit her head, and they wanted someone to pick her up and monitor her for signs of concussion. Ethan was in the middle of a client presentation. He couldn't leave. He called Ava without thinking. Can you get Maya from school? She fell, hit her head. They want someone to watch her for a few hours. I'm on my way. Text me the address. Ava picked up Maya, took her back to Ethan's place, and spent the afternoon keeping her awake and checking for symptoms while Ethan finished his presentation and drove home in record time. When he walked through the door, he found Maya and Ava on the couch, watching a movie. Maya had an ice pack on her forehead and was explaining the plot to Ava with the kind of detail that suggested she was fine. Dad! Maya perked up when she saw him. Ava got me ice cream. The nurse said I could have it since I was being brave. The nurse said she could have it in moderation after being monitored, Ava corrected, smiling. I might have been lenient on the moderation part. Ethan crossed to the couch and checked Maya's pupils, felt the bump on her head, asked all the standard questions. She answered them cheerfully, clearly enjoying the attention. She's been alert the whole time, Ava said. No nausea, no dizziness. I think she's okay. Thank you. For getting her. For staying. Of course. Later, after Maya had been checked one more time and cleared for regular activity, she came into the kitchen where Ethan and Ava were making dinner. Ava? Maya's voice was small. Yeah? I'm glad you're my dad's girlfriend. Ava knelt down to Maya's level. Yeah? Yeah, you're nice, and you like the same things I like, and you came when I got hurt. Maya paused. Can I hug you? Absolutely. Maya wrapped her arms around Ava's neck, and Ava hugged her back carefully. Ethan watched from the counter, feeling his throat get tight. When Maya pulled back, she said, I don't want to call you Mom. Is that okay? That's completely okay. You can call me Ava. That's my name. Okay, good. Maya seemed satisfied with this. Can we have spaghetti for dinner? We can definitely have spaghetti. Maya ran off to her room to change out of her school clothes. Ava stood up slowly, and Ethan saw her wipe at her eyes. You okay? He asked. Yeah, that was a big deal, right? What just happened? That was huge. Good. I didn't want to overreact, but Ethan pulled her into a hug. You can overreact. You earned it. They held each other in the kitchen while water boiled for pasta, and Ethan thought about all the small moments that had led here. The museum visits and homework help and consistent presence. The patience Ava had shown while Maya worked through her fears. The way she'd dropped everything to pick up a 7-year-old she had no legal responsibility for, simply because it was the right thing to do. I have something to tell you, Ava said into his shoulder. And you're going to think the timing is terrible, but I need to say it anyway. Ethan pulled back to look at her. What? The board offered me a position heading up our European expansion. It would mean relocating to London for at least a year, possibly 2. They want an answer by the end of the month. The bottom dropped out of Ethan's stomach. Oh, I'm going to turn it down. Ava, I'm going to turn it down, she repeated firmly. It's an incredible opportunity, career-defining, honestly. But I don't want it. Not if it means leaving you and Maya. You can't turn down something that big because of us. Why not? I told you I was choosing to stay. This is what that looks like. But London, that's huge. That could define the next decade of your career. So could staying here and building something with you. Ava cupped his face. I've spent my entire adult life chasing the next big opportunity. And I'm tired. I'm tired of putting work first. I'm tired of being alone. I'm tired of pretending that success means anything if I don't have people I love to share it with. Maya and I aren't going anywhere. You could take the position. We'd figure it out. Long distance for 2 years with a 7-year-old who's just starting to trust me? That's not figuring it out. That's sabotaging everything we've built. Ava shook her head. I don't want London. I want this. Messy dinners and school pickups and watching documentaries about sea turtles. I want this life. With you. Ethan's chest felt too full. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. Okay, then turn it down. Yeah? Yeah, stay here. With us. Ava smiled and Ethan kissed her, and from somewhere down the hall, Maya yelled, Is the spaghetti ready yet? Almost, Ethan called back. They broke apart and went back to making dinner, but something had shifted. This wasn't just dating anymore. This wasn't just carefully navigating a complicated situation. This was choosing each other, deliberately and completely, even when it meant sacrificing things that looked good on paper. That night, after Maya was asleep and Ava had gone home, Ethan sat on his couch and thought about the fact that Ava had turned down London. For him. For Maya. For a life that was objectively smaller than what she could have had. And instead of feeling guilty, he felt grateful. The next morning, he called his mom for the first time in weeks. Ethan, I was starting to think you'd forgotten how to dial my number. Sorry, Mom, work's been crazy. Work's always crazy. What's really going on? He told her about Ava, about the relationship, the HR disclosure, the job transfer, the gossip, Maya's adjustment. His mom listened without interrupting, which was unlike her. So you're serious about this woman, she said when he finished. Yeah, I am. And she's good to Maya? She's great with Maya, patient, kind, shows up when it matters. Then what are you waiting for? What? You love her, she loves you, she's good with your daughter, she chose you over some fancy job in London. What are you waiting for? Mom, we've been together less than a year. So? Your father proposed to me after 4 months. We were married 42 years before he died. Time doesn't mean anything if you've found the right person. It's complicated. The work situation, Maya adjusting, life is complicated. That's not going to change whether you marry this woman tomorrow or 3 years from now. His mom's voice softened. Baby, you've been careful your whole life. Careful about jobs, careful about money, careful about relationships after Maya's mother left, and I love that about you. But sometimes being too careful means you miss out on the good stuff. I'm not missing out. We're together. Are you happy? The question again. Ethan thought about it honestly. Yeah, Mom, I'm really happy. Then stop overthinking it. If you want to marry her, marry her. If you want to wait, wait. But make the choice because it's what you want, not because you're scared of what could go wrong. They talked for another 20 minutes about nothing important before hanging up. Ethan sat with his mom's words, turning them over in his mind. If you want to marry her, marry her. Did he want that? He'd told Ava that eventually, hypothetically, he did. But when was eventually? How long did they need to prove they could make this work before taking that step? His phone buzzed. Ava, board meeting got moved to tomorrow. Want to grab lunch today? Can't. Client presentation at noon. Dinner tonight? Maya's school thing, remember? You're chaperoning the field trip. Ethan had completely forgotten. Right. Tomorrow night then? It's a date. He set down his phone and smiled. This was his life now, coordinating schedules around work and Maya's activities and stolen moments with the woman he loved. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy. But it was real. And maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything. The field trip to the aquarium was supposed to be simple. Ethan had chaperoned before. Keep track of 4 kids, make sure nobody fell into the shark tank. help them fill out the worksheet their teacher had prepared. Easy. Except one of the kids in his group was Emma, and Emma spent the first 20 minutes pointedly ignoring Maya while talking loudly about how her stepmom had taken her to this aquarium last month, and it was way better then. Ethan watched Maya's shoulders tense, saw her retreat into herself the way she did when she was hurt, but trying not to show it. He pulled Emma aside gently. "Hey, Emma, I know things are tough with your family situation right now, but Maya's your friend. She doesn't deserve to be the target of that frustration." Emma's face crumpled. "She's not really my friend anymore. Not since she pushed me. You both apologized for that. You both moved on. But everything's different now. She has you, and she's getting a new mom who's actually nice, and I have my dad and a stepmom who wishes I didn't exist." The raw pain in Emma's voice made Ethan's chest ache. He crouched down to her level, right there in front of the jellyfish exhibit. "First, Ava's not Maya's new mom. She's just someone important in our lives. Second, I'm really sorry things are hard with your stepmom. That's not fair to you. But taking it out on Maya won't make you feel better. It'll just make you both feel worse." Emma wiped her eyes. "I don't know how to not be mad about it. Being mad is okay. Being mean isn't. There's a difference." Ethan stood up. "You want to know what I think? I think you and Maya should talk. Really talk. Because you're both dealing with the same scary stuff. New people in your families, everything changing, wondering if you matter as much as you used to. You might actually understand each other better than anyone else." Emma considered this. Then she walked over to where Maya was pretending to read about moon jellies and said, "Can we talk?" Ethan gave them space, corralling the other two kids toward the touch pools while Maya and Emma found a bench. When they came back 10 minutes later, they weren't exactly friends again, but the sharp edges had softened. "We're okay," Maya told him quietly. "Not perfect, but okay. That's all anyone can ask for." The rest of the field trip went smoothly. On the bus ride back, Maya fell asleep on Ethan's shoulder, and he thought about what he'd told Emma, about how being part of a blended family meant navigating constant uncertainty, trusting that you still mattered even when everything was changing. It applied to him too, to all of them. That night, after Maya was in bed, Ethan sat at his kitchen table with a beer he wasn't really drinking and thought about his conversation with his mom, about Ava turning down London, about Maya finally trusting enough to hug Ava without being asked. They'd been building something for almost a year now, carefully, imperfectly, through HR meetings and job transfers and playground accidents and whispered conversations after bedtime. They'd proven it could work. So why was he still waiting? His phone rang. Ava's name lit up the screen. "Hey," he answered. "Late for you to be calling." "Couldn't sleep. Wanted to hear your voice." She paused. "How was the aquarium?" "Educational. Dramatic. Maya and Emma had a breakthrough. I played therapist to a 7-year-old. Sounds like a successful field trip." "It was, actually." Ethan took a breath. "Can you come over tomorrow night, after Maya's asleep? I want to talk to you about something." "That sounds ominous. Should I be worried?" "No, just come over, please." "Okay, I'll be there." They hung up, and Ethan spent the next 24 hours trying not to overthink what he was about to do. He went to work, sat through meetings, analyzed data that all blurred together. By the time he got home to relieve the babysitter and make Maya dinner, his nerves were shot. "You're being weird," Maya observed over chicken nuggets. "I'm not being weird. You made me vegetables without me asking. That's weird. What's wrong?" Ethan looked at his daughter, too perceptive for her own good, growing up too fast, already learning how to read people's moods like a survival skill. "I'm thinking about asking Ava to marry me," he said. The words came out before he could stop them. Maya's eyes went wide. "Really?" "Really. But I wanted to talk to you about it first because this affects you too." "Do I get a vote?" "You get the most important vote." Maya set down her chicken nugget, suddenly very serious. "If you marry her, does that mean she lives here?" "Probably. Eventually. We'd figure out the timing together." "And I'd see her every day?" "Yeah." "Would I have to call her mom?" "No, never. Not unless you wanted to." Maya was quiet for a long moment, pushing her vegetables around her plate. "What if she leaves, like my real mom did? My real mom." There it was. The fear underneath everything else. Ethan reached across the table and took Maya's hand. "I can't promise she won't leave, Bug. I can't promise anything bad will never happen. But I can tell you that Ava loves us, both of us. And she's shown up every single day for almost a year, even when it was hard, even when she could have walked away. That means something. But you can't promise. No, I can't. Life doesn't work that way. Ethan squeezed her hand. But here's what I can promise. If you say you're not ready for this, I'll wait. If you say you don't want it at all, I won't ask her. You matter more to me than anything else. You always will. Maya looked down at their joined hands. Do you love her? So much it scares me sometimes. Does she make you happy? Like really happy? Not just pretend happy? Really happy. And she's nice to me. She listens when I talk about stuff. She picked me up when I got hurt. Maya looked up. I think you should ask her. Ethan's throat felt tight. Yeah? Yeah. But Dad? If she says yes and moves in, can we get a cat? Because if we're going to be a bigger family, we should have a pet too. Despite everything, Ethan laughed. We'll negotiate about the cat. That's not a no. That's not a yes either. Maya grinned and went back to her dinner. The weight of the conversation apparently lifted from her shoulders, if not from Ethan's. Ava arrived at 9:30 after Maya had gone to bed. She looked nervous, which was rare for her. Okay, I've been spiraling all day, she said the moment Ethan opened the door. What did you need to talk about? Are you breaking up with me? Because if you are, I need you to tell me now before I completely lose it. I'm not breaking up with you. Then what? Ethan pulled her inside and closed the door. Come sit down. They sat on the couch, and Ethan realized he hadn't actually planned what to say. He'd been so focused on talking to Maya that he hadn't prepared for this part. I've been thinking, he started, then stopped. I'm not good at this. Good at what? Romantic gestures, big moments. I'm better at data analysis than feelings. Ava's expression softened. Ethan, just tell me what's going on. I love you. That part I'm sure about. I love you more than I thought I could love anyone after Maya's mom left. You make me believe in things I'd written off as impossible. Ethan took her hands. And I know we've only been together a year. I know we've had to navigate a lot of complicated stuff. But I also know that you turned down London for us. You show up for Maya's school pickups and dinosaur documentaries. You've made our lives better just by being in them. Ethan, wait, let me finish before I lose my nerve. He took a breath. I don't have a ring yet. I wanted to ask Maya first, make sure she was okay with this. But Ava Sterling, will you marry me? The silence that followed felt endless. Ava was staring at him with an expression he couldn't read, and Ethan's heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. You asked Maya first, Ava said finally. I had to. This affects her life as much as ours. What did she say? She said yes, and then she asked if we could get a cat. Ava laughed, and then she was crying, and then she was kissing him. When she pulled back, her face was wet, but she was smiling. Yes. Obviously, yes. Did you think I'd say anything else? I genuinely had no idea. You're impossible to read sometimes. I'm saying yes. I'm saying yes to you and Maya and the life we've built and whatever comes next. Ava kissed him again. Even the cat, apparently. I didn't agree to the cat. You're going to agree to the cat. Maya will wear you down. She's very good at that. They sat there on the couch, holding each other, and Ethan felt something settle in his chest that had been restless for years. This was it. This was what he'd been missing without knowing it. Someone who chose him back, who saw all his complications and responsibilities and chose to stay anyway. When? Ava asked eventually. When do you want to do this? I don't know. Whenever feels right. There's no rush. What if I want to rush? What if I want to marry you tomorrow? Ethan pulled back to look at her. Tomorrow. Not literally tomorrow, but soon. Why wait? We've already done the hard part, figuring out if this is real, navigating the work situation, getting Maya on board. The wedding is just making it official. Most people plan weddings for months, years even. Most people aren't us. Ava stood up, already pacing with the kind of energy she brought to board meetings. What if we kept it small? Just the people who matter. Your mom, my assistant, Maya's friends if she wants them there. Something simple and real instead of some big production. You're serious. Completely serious. I've spent enough of my life doing things because they looked good, or met other people's expectations. I want to marry you because I love you, not because we've checked all the traditional boxes. She stopped pacing and looked at him. Unless you want the big wedding, then we can do that too. Whatever you want. Ethan thought about it, about months of planning and seating charts and all the stress that came with traditional weddings. Then he thought about what his mom had said. The time didn't mean anything if you'd found the right person. Small sounds good, he said. Simple and real sounds perfect. They started planning that night, sitting at Ethan's kitchen table with Maya's crayons and a notepad. The list was short. Immediate family, close friends, maybe 20 people total. They'd do it at the park where Ethan and Maya went every Saturday, the same place where Ava had pushed Maya on the swings and helped build sandcastles. No fancy venue, no elaborate decorations, just people who mattered and a commitment to keep choosing each other. What about Maya? Ava asked. What role does she want? I'll ask her tomorrow, but knowing Maya, she'll have opinions. Maya's opinion, when asked the next morning, was that she wanted to be the one who walked Ava down the aisle. Because you're not her dad, so her dad can't do it, Maya explained with 7-year-old logic. And I'm going to be her family too, so I should be the one. That's perfect, Ava said when Ethan relayed this. Absolutely perfect. They set the date for 6 weeks out, enough time to handle the legal logistics and let people make arrangements, but not so long that they'd overthink it. Ethan called his mom, who cried, and then immediately started asking about details. Ava told her assistant, who looked completely unsurprised and congratulated them both. The gossip at work started up again within days. Ethan heard whispers about how fast they were moving, speculation about whether Ava was pregnant, theories about ulterior motives. He ignored most of it, but Derek cornered him in the break room one afternoon. So you're really doing this, Derek said. Marrying the CEO. I'm marrying Ava. The CEO thing is just her job. You know people are going to talk. People are already talking. They've been talking since the transfer. I'm done caring about it. Derek studied him for a moment. You look happy. Like genuinely happy. So I guess that's what matters. It is. Well, congratulations. Seriously, you deserve this. The weeks before the wedding passed in a blur of small tasks and big emotions. They got the marriage license. Ethan bought a simple ring, nothing extravagant, just something Ava could wear every day without it getting in the way. Maya helped pick out her dress for the ceremony, insisting it had to have pockets because what if I need to hold something important? Ava moved some of her things into Ethan's house gradually, testing how it felt to share space. Her fancy coffee maker appeared in the kitchen. Her clothes started filling half the closet. She complained about his shower pressure, and he complained about her habit of leaving books on every flat surface, and it felt like the most normal thing in the world. This is weird, Ava said one night, standing in what was now their bedroom. I own a mansion, and I'm choosing to live in a 3-bedroom house in the suburbs. Having regrets? Not even a little bit. She crawled into bed next to him. The mansion was empty. This is home. The night before the wedding, Ethan's mom came into town and insisted on taking Maya for the evening, so Ethan and Ava could have one last night as an unmarried couple. They went to the same diner where they'd had their first real conversation, sitting in a booth that probably wasn't the same one but felt like it anyway. Nervous? Ava asked over a terrible coffee. Terrified. You? Same. But the good kind of terrified. The kind that means it matters. It definitely matters. They talked about everything and nothing, work stress and Maya's upcoming school play, and whether they should really let her get a cat. When they finally left, Ethan drove them back to the house, and they sat in the driveway for a while, not quite ready for the night to end. Last chance to back out, Ava said. You first. Not a chance. Then I guess we're doing this. I guess we are. The wedding was exactly what they'd planned. Small and imperfect and real. The weather threatened rain all morning, but held off until after the ceremony. Maya walked Ava down the makeshift aisle in the park, gripping her hand tightly and looking so serious that several people in the small crowd laughed. Ethan's mom cried through the entire thing. Marcus and Kelly came, along with a handful of friends and colleagues who'd proven they actually cared. The officiant was a friend of Ava's from college who'd gotten ordained online specifically for this. The vows were simple. Promises to keep choosing each other, to show up, to build a life that mattered more than careers or money or other people's opinions. When the officiant declared them married, Ethan kissed Ava while Maya cheered and his mom sobbed and the first drops of rain started to fall. They ran laughing to the covered pavilion where they'd set up tables with food, and someone turned on music from a phone speaker, and for the next few hours they celebrated with the people who'd helped them get here. "Best wedding I've ever been to," Marcus said, clapping Ethan on the shoulder. "And I've been to some fancy ones, so that's saying something." "It's just a park," Ethan said. "Exactly. No pretense, just people who actually matter." Marcus grinned. "You did good, man." Later, when most people had left and the rain had stopped, Ethan found Maya sitting on a bench near the playground, still in her dress with the important pockets. "You okay, Bug?" "Yeah, just thinking." Ethan sat down next to her. "About what?" "About how you and Ava are married now. So we're really a family, not just pretending or trying it out, actually real." "Actually real," Ethan confirmed. "That's pretty cool." "Yeah, it really is." Maya leaned against him, and they sat there watching Ava talk to his mom about something that was making them both laugh. The sun was setting, painting everything gold, and Ethan thought about how much had changed in the last year. How much he'd risked. How much he'd gained. "Dad," Maya said quietly, "I'm glad you found her." "Me too, Bug." "Me too." The first year of marriage was an adjustment. Ava had warned Ethan that merging lives was harder than dating, and she was right. They fought about stupid things: who forgot to buy milk, whose turn it was to do dishes, how late was too late for Maya to stay up on school nights. They had to learn each other's rhythms, figure out how to share space, negotiate whose family traditions to keep and whose to let go. But they also figured out the good parts. Weekend routines that involved all three of them. Inside jokes that made Maya roll her eyes. The comfort of coming home to someone who understood both the work stress and the parenting exhaustion. Maya adjusted too, though not without bumps. She tested boundaries, pushed back when Ava tried to enforce rules, occasionally announced that she wanted things to go back to how they were before. But she also started calling Ava by her first name without the careful distance she'd maintained at first. Started including her in stories about school. Started asking her opinion on things that mattered. "Do you think this drawing is good enough for the art show?" Maya asked Ava one evening, holding up a picture she'd spent hours on. "I think it's great, but what do you think?" "I think the sky is too blue. Real sky isn't that blue." "So fix it. Make it the color you want." Maya considered this, then went back to her room to revise. Ethan watched from the kitchen. "You're good at that," he told Ava. "At what?" "Not just telling her what she wants to hear, making her think. She's a smart kid. She doesn't need someone to just agree with her. She needs someone to challenge her to be better." "Still, you're good at it." 18 months after the wedding, Ava came home from a doctor's appointment looking stunned. "Everything okay?" Ethan asked, immediately worried. "I'm pregnant." The world stopped. Ethan stared at her, processing words that didn't quite make sense. "You're what?" "Pregnant. About 8 weeks. We weren't trying, but apparently we weren't being as careful as we thought." "You're pregnant," Ethan repeated, still trying to make his brain catch up. "Are you okay? You look like you might pass out." Ethan sat down heavily on the couch. "I'm shocked. Happy shocked. Maybe." "Are you happy?" Ava sat next to him. "I don't know yet. I didn't think I wanted kids. That was never part of my plan. But now that it's real, She pressed her hands to her stomach. "I'm terrified, and excited, and completely overwhelmed." "That sounds about right. What about you? How are you feeling?" Ethan thought about it honestly. "Maya's 8 now. I was just starting to feel like I had this parenting thing figured out, and now we're starting over with a baby." He took Ava's hand. "But also, yeah, I'm happy. Terrified, but happy." "What about Maya? How do we tell her?" That turned out to be its own adventure. They sat Maya down that evening after dinner and explained as gently as possible that there was going to be a baby. Maya's first reaction was silence. Then she said, "A real baby? Like a whole entire person baby?" "A whole entire person baby," Ava confirmed. "Where will it sleep?" "We'll figure that out, probably in our room at first." "Will you still have time for me?" There it was, the real question underneath the logistics. Ethan pulled Maya onto his lap, even though she was getting too big for it. "Always." Having another kid doesn't mean we love you less. It just means our family gets bigger. But babies need a lot of attention. Emma's mom had a baby last year, and Emma says she barely sees her anymore. We're not Emma's parents, Ava said firmly, and we're not going to forget about you just because there's a baby. You're too important. Maya was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Can I help take care of it?" "Absolutely," Ethan said, "if you want to." "Okay, then I guess it's okay." It wasn't quite that simple, of course. As Ava's pregnancy progressed, Maya had phases of excitement and phases of obvious anxiety. She asked questions about whether the baby would like her, whether she'd have to share her toys, whether Ethan and Ava would still want to do things with just her sometimes. They reassured her constantly, made sure to maintain their routines even as they prepared for the baby, let her help pick out nursery colors and tiny clothes while also making it clear that her space and her importance in the family weren't changing. The baby, a girl they named Sophie, arrived on a Tuesday morning in April. Maya met her sister for the first time in the hospital, approaching the bassinet with a mix of curiosity and caution. "She's really small," Maya whispered. "You were that small once," Ethan said. "No way. I was never that tiny." "Way. I have pictures to prove it." Maya reached out and touched Sophie's tiny hand. The baby's fingers wrapped reflexively around Maya's finger, and Maya's eyes went wide. "She's holding my hand." "She is." "Does that mean she likes me?" "It means she's a baby, and that's what babies do, but I bet she'll like you when she's old enough to know who you are." Maya stayed there for a long time, holding Sophie's hand and watching her sleep. When they finally left the hospital 2 days later, Maya insisted on carrying the diaper bag because someone has to help. The first few months with Sophie were exhausting in ways Ethan had forgotten were possible. The sleepless nights, the constant feeding, the way every plan had to be adjusted around a tiny human who couldn't communicate except by crying. Ava handled it better than she'd expected, though she admitted one night at 3 in the morning that she now understood why CEOs took parental leave. "I've run board meetings with less stress than trying to figure out why she won't stop crying," Ava said, bouncing Sophie gently. "Welcome to parenting. It doesn't get less confusing, just different kinds of confusing." "Great. That's very reassuring, but they figured it out." Ava cut back her hours at Sterling Industries, delegating more and working from home when possible. Ethan's department was understanding about the occasional late arrival or early departure. Maya helped in the ways an 8-year-old could, fetching diapers, singing to Sophie when she was fussy, making her laugh with silly faces. "You're good with her," Ava told Maya one evening while Sophie giggled at Maya's exaggerated expressions. "She's pretty fun, for a baby." Maya looked up. "Do you love her more than me?" "No, I love you both differently. You're my bonus daughter. I gotta choose to love you. Sophie's my biological daughter. I love her because she's part of me. But there's no more or less, just different. Bonus daughter is kind of cool, like a bonus level in a video game." Exactly like that. By the time Sophie was 6 months old, they'd settled into a rhythm, chaotic and imperfect, but functional. Ethan would get Maya ready for school, while Ava handled Sophie's morning routine. They'd tag-team dinner and bedtime. Weekends involved coordinating naps and playground time, and the million small tasks that came with having 2 kids at very different stages. "We should get a cat," Maya said one Saturday morning while they were all having breakfast. Sophie was in her high chair, smearing oatmeal on every surface within reach. "We're not getting a cat," Ethan said automatically. "You said maybe at the wedding. It's been 2 years. That's long enough for maybe to become yes. That's not how maybes work." "Please, Sophie would love a cat." Sophie's 6 months old. She doesn't have opinions about cats. "She will eventually, and when she does, she'll want one. So we should get one now." Ava was trying not to laugh. Ethan shot her a look. "Don't encourage her." "I'm not encouraging anything. I'm just observing that Maya makes a compelling argument. We are not getting a cat." They got a cat 3 weeks later, a scrappy orange tabby from the shelter that Maya named Dinosaur because it has stripes like a Dilophosaurus. The cat immediately claimed Maya's bed as its territory and spent most of its time either sleeping or knocking things off tables. "I can't believe we have a cat," Ethan said, watching Dinosaur deliberately push a pencil off the counter. "You were always going to cave," Ava said. "Maya's very persuasive. She gets that from you. She gets that from being 8 and knowing her parents are pushovers. Sophie started crawling at 7 months, which meant the house had to be baby-proofed all over again. Maya took this responsibility seriously, pointing out every potential hazard with the gravity of a safety inspector. "The cat's food bowl is a choking hazard," she announced. "Sophie could eat the kibble." "Sophie's not going to eat cat food, Bug. You don't know that. Babies put everything in their mouths. That's like the main thing they do." She wasn't wrong. They moved the cat food to a higher shelf. By Sophie's first birthday, life had achieved something that resembled stability. Ethan had been in his department long enough that he wasn't the new guy anymore. Ava had found a sustainable balance between work and family, though she admitted the balance shifted constantly. Maya was in 3rd grade and thriving, her earlier anxieties about the blended family mostly resolved. Sophie was walking, babbling, and generally being delightful when she wasn't being impossible. They celebrated Sophie's birthday with the same simplicity as their wedding, just family and close friends in their backyard. Sophie smashed a cupcake into her face while Maya provided commentary, and Ethan's mom took approximately 500 photos. "You've built something good here," Ethan's mom told him while they were cleaning up afterward. "I'm proud of you." "Thanks, Mom." "Your father would be proud too. You took a risk on love when you could have played it safe. That takes courage." "I don't know about courage. Mostly, I just got lucky." "Luck is part of it. But you also did the work. You showed up. You made hard choices." She squeezed his arm. "That's what matters." That night, after both kids were asleep and the house was finally quiet, Ethan and Ava collapsed on the couch. "We survived," Ava said. "Barely." Sophie's already plotting tomorrow's chaos. "I can feel it. Maya's teaching her bad habits. I saw her showing Sophie how to open the cabinet where we keep the cookies." "Of course she did." Ava leaned her head on Ethan's shoulder. "Do you ever think about how different our lives would be if we hadn't met at that wedding?" "Sometimes. I'd probably still be in my old department, single, convinced this was all I could handle. I'd probably be in London or some other city, chasing the next big opportunity and wondering why none of it felt like enough. No regrets? Not even one, 'You?'" Ethan thought about the HR conference room where this had almost fallen apart. The job transfer that had stung more than he'd admitted. The sleepless nights with a newborn when he'd questioned whether they'd bitten off more than they could chew. No regrets. This is messy and complicated and nothing like I planned. But it's real. It's ours. That's worth everything we went through to get here. Even the cat? Even the cat. They sat there in this quiet, listening to the house settle around them. Somewhere upstairs, Sophie made a small sound in her sleep. The cat knocked something over in Maya's room. Normal life sounds in a normal house with a family that had been built from broken pieces and second chances. "I love you," Ava said quietly. "I love you too." It wasn't dramatic or romantic or anything that would make a good story, but it was true. And in the end, Ethan thought, that was all that really mattered. Finding someone who chose you back, day after day, through the boring parts and the hard parts, and the beautiful parts that made all the rest worthwhile. 5 years later, Maya was 13 and Sophie was 6. The age gap that had seemed huge when Sophie was born had settled into something that worked. Maya old enough to help, but young enough to still play sometimes. Sophie young enough to worship her big sister, but old enough to have her own personality. They'd moved to a bigger house the year before, one with enough space for everyone and a yard where Dinosaur the cat could pretend to hunt birds. Ethan had been promoted to head of analytics for his department. Ava had stepped back from day-to-day operations at Sterling Industries, transitioning to an advisory role that gave her more time at home. "I spent 20 years building that company," she'd told the board. "I'm proud of what we accomplished, but I want the next 20 years to be about something different." She'd started consulting part-time, helping other companies with strategic planning. It was enough to stay engaged without consuming her life. The balance suited her better than she'd expected. Maya was in 7th grade, all attitude and opinions and startling insights that reminded Ethan of both himself and Ava. She joined the debate team and the science club. She'd stopped being obsessed with dinosaurs and moved on to marine biology. She rolled her eyes at both her parents with equal opportunity, but still came to them when things mattered. Sophie was a whirlwind of energy and questions, the kind of kid who woke up at full speed and didn't slow down until bedtime. She'd inherited Maya's curiosity and Ava's stubborn determination and Ethan's tendency to overthink things. Watching the two of them together, Maya patient with her little sister in ways that surprised everyone, Sophie looking up to Maya with obvious adoration, made Ethan grateful for every hard choice that had led here. "Dad, can you help me with my math homework?" Maya asked one evening, appearing in the kitchen where Ethan was making dinner. "The math whiz needs help? This must be serious." "It's not that I don't understand it. I just want to make sure I'm doing it right." "That's called checking your work." "Which is what I'm doing, by asking you." Ethan dried his hands and sat down with her at the table. They worked through the problems while Sophie colored nearby, and Ava answered emails on her laptop. It was mundane, ordinary, everything Ethan had never expected his life to become. Later, after homework was done and dinner was finished and both kids were in bed, Ethan found Ava on the back porch. "Penny for your thoughts," he said, sitting next to her. "Just thinking about how far we've come. Remember that conference room when we thought everything was about to fall apart? I remember thinking I was going to lose everything. But you didn't. We didn't. No, we just had to fight for it." Ava took his hand. "Do you think Maya remembers what it was like before? When it was just you and her?" "Probably some of it. Why?" "I was just wondering if she ever wishes we could go back to simpler times." "Maya doesn't do simple. She never has." Ethan squeezed her hand. "She's happy, Ava. They both are. You can stop worrying about whether you're enough." "I'm always going to worry about that." "I know, but you can trust that you're doing it right anyway." They sat there watching the stars come out, two people who'd taken a chance on something complicated and made it work through sheer stubbornness and love. It hadn't been smooth. It probably never would be. But it was real, and it was theirs, and that made all the difference. Inside, they heard Sophie call out for water, and Maya's patient voice responding that she'd get it. The sounds of their family, imperfect and beautiful, and exactly what they'd built together. Ethan had spent years being careful, protecting himself and Maya from more hurt. But somewhere along the way, he'd learned that the best things in life required risk, required choosing to believe in someone even when logic said it was too complicated, required staying when leaving would be easier. He'd found that in Ava. She'd found it in him. And together, they'd built a life that proved sometimes the most unexpected paths led to exactly where you needed to be. "Come on," Ava said, standing and pulling him up. "Let's go make sure Sophie actually got water and didn't just convince Maya to let her have cookies instead. Smart money's on cookies. Always bet on cookies." They went inside together, back to the chaos and noise and endless negotiations that made up their life. It wasn't perfect. It was better than perfect. It was real.